Chapter 61, Dorm Room Chaos. Once the announcement for the match's end was made, all of them stopped fighting. Satoru would have complained a lot about this type of ending, but unfortunately he was not in a condition to blame anyone. "Daddy!" came Satoru, flying straight towards Naoya with a pained voice. "HM? Son? Huh? Oi! What happened to you?" "Which bastard did this to you?" asked Naoya in panic. Right now, Satoru had his hand covered in wounds and it even looked badly fractured. Satoru started mock crying and started explaining what happened. Seeing that his blue was being counteracted by Yuki effortlessly, and her not allowing him to prepare a max output blue attack, made Satoru a bit impatient and frustrated. That led him to unleash the ultimate technique that he prepared to use against Naoya, a blue-infused punch. Using the attractive property of blue directly on his fists, not only pulled in the target towards itself, but it also made it almost impossible for the target to dodge the hit. That, coupled with cursed energy reinforcement and Satoru's strength and speed, made the attack quite deadly. Sadly for him, his opponent for this attack was an absolute counter. Yuki, who used Star Rage on herself, became immensely dense without any actual change in weight, and when pulled in with the force of blue that gave her immense speed, she hit Satoru's fist like a meteorite. And that resulted in Satoru having a heavily injured and broken hand. "So you messed up," replied Naoya. An invisible arrow pierced Satoru. "You absolute idiot," scolded Naoya and smacked Satoru's head. "Ugh! You brute! How dare you hit the pitiful me? You should scold the brute girl who hurt me instead," complained Satoru. "You got injured by your own mistake. Now give me your hand," said Naoya and partially summoned Senzu. Gojo glared at Naoya but still raised his hand for Naoya to heal him. "That's why I said earlier to learn RCT. I even offered to help you learn it," said Naoya. "Humph. Like I would learn from my rival. I will do it on my own and beat the crap out of you. If you taught me, then my victory would be because of your help. I refuse to accept that." Naoya stared at Satoru, not expecting such a deep emotion behind his refusal to learn from him. But soon a pitiful look appeared on Naoya's face, and he raised his hand to ruffle Satoru's hair. "Such a pitiful kid, he actually believes that if he could ever beat me, delusion is strong with this one," said Naoya. Satoru looked at the audacity of his friend and didn't know where the weak-willed kid from his younger days had gone. Back in the day it was he who used to lead Naoya around in trouble, and now he dared to question his strength. "Damn you bastard. I will make sure to beat the hell out of you," declared Satoru, but didn't move an inch. He was being patted and it felt nice. "Sure you will, lil guy," replied Naoya with a smile. Ack. After the barrier was taken down, all the students headed back to the main school building. While on their way, Satoru and Yuki kept glaring at each other. Both were dissatisfied with their performance today and wanted nothing more than to vent somewhere. Kuriko was unconscious and was being carried by Cupcake. He might have improved, but his stamina still had a limit and fighting a grade 1 sorcerer definitely drained all of him. The other girls, Mei, Yutaheim and Shoko, were talking with each other. Mei and Yutaheim knew each other, and Shoko was getting to know Yutaheim, and Yutaheim was glad to finally meet a somewhat normal junior. Naoya and Kuriko were her benchmark, and Shoko was certainly better than the two of them. Geto was having a conversation with Naoya. Being a fellow Shikigami/cursed spirit user, he was curious as to how other people fought with an army of curses. Soon they noticed a few people approaching them and stopped. The ones who appeared were the teachers from both schools, along with Kajinori and the twins. "Nini!" called Maki and ran up to Naoya. Poof! The girl latched onto Naoya's leg, making him bend to her level and detach the girl. Mai followed soon after and latched onto Naoya as well. Picking two of the ground, he looked at them. Both were looking at him with excitement. All right. You can praise me now," said Naoya helplessly. "Nini so strong. Nini's ball was so big. Nini amazing." The two girls started singing praises of Naoya, making the big brother's chest swell with pride. The twins then turned towards Satoru, making the Gojo clan heir stare back at them. The girls stared at him for a while before they snorted and smirked at him. "Huh? What's that look for?" asked Satoru. "Satoru lost?" called Maki. "Satoru loser," called Mai. "Satoru sucks," called Geto. "Boo-boo," called Shoko. The Tokyo first years joined the girls in humiliating Satoru. "Huh? You all picking a fight with me? That's it. I will show you my true power. Curse Tekken Dash. Before Satoru could use his curse technique, Yaga interrupted and started punishing him. Haha. The twins laughed at the scene, making Naoya look helplessly at them. They still had a grudge against his friend. Good job. Naoya turned around and saw Kajinori looking at him with pride in his eyes. Thanks for the praise. Ahem ahem. Gakuganji interrupted them to get their attention. I will now explain tomorrow's event, said the principal. The students stopped their nonsense and waited for the instructions. The next event will be a one-on-one duel between sorcerers, said Gakuganji, and immediately the Kyoto and Tokyo students started eyeing each other. Don't get competitive just yet. Let me explain the general rules. Day 2 rules: individual battles. 1. The format will be winner stays on. A fighter may continue battling until they are defeated or unable to continue. 2. Killing is strictly prohibited. Matches will be halted if a lethal risk is detected. 3. All forms of jujutsu are permitted, including curse techniques and cursed tools. 4. Battle order must be submitted in advance. No substitutions or changes will be allowed once the event begins. 5. A team is considered defeated when all its registered fighters are incapacitated or unable to continue. 6. After each match, the winning fighter will be granted a brief recovery window before the next battle begins. Once the rules were listed, the students' brains instantly started working. The possibilities of this match were endless. What would be the right choice? Send a special grade from the start to overwhelm the other side, or send others to scout and weaken the enemy side one by one? Naoya, called Satoru, breaking free from Yaga's grasp. Gentlemen's agreement. We will enter at the end. I want to fight you in your best form, said Satoru with seriousness. Naoya looked at him for a while before he shrugged his shoulders. Gentlemen's agreement, replied Naoya. The other students looked at the two special grades with surprise. This removed many complications from the equations, but despite all that, a wild card remained. A particularly strong wild card. The rest of the students turned towards Yuki. Her positioning in the battle would decide how the matches would unfold. Yuki was not thinking about that though. She still had a score to settle with Gojo, and seeing that Naoya had made a gentleman's agreement, it gave her another chance to have a go at Gojo. Yutaheim already knew what was going on with Yuki's head and started thinking about what her side would be doing. After bidding farewell to Kajinori, since Maki and Mai threw a tantrum to stay with Naoya, the three of them made their way back to his dorm room. Once he got in, he saw Satoru already lying on the bed. The bastard was assigned a room of his own, but he too decided to stick around Naoya. What took you so, runts? Muttered Satoru, seeing the twins. Blah. Maki and Mai stuck their tongue out in response and immediately got a forehead flick from Naoya. Bad manners, chided Naoya, making the two look down. Haha. Bad kids, cheered Satoru and immediately got a stronger, solid forehead flick from Naoya. Bad manners, chided Naoya again, though this time it was pointed towards Satoru. Bully? I demand justice, complained Satoru. Justice, joined Maki. Justice, joined Mai. Haha. See, even the two are on my side. Send Satoru away. Justice. No Satoru in the room. Satoru looked at the traitors and immediately decided to do a tactical tickling on the two to torture them. Seeing his three kids play around, Naoya shook his head in defeat. He won't be having a peaceful night today. Knock knock asterisk. Hearing the knock, Naoya glanced at Satoru, wondering if he knew who it was, to which he replied with a shrug. Naoya opened the door and saw Geto and Kuriko standing by the door. Is Satoru here? Asked Geto. Too loud. Muttered Kuriko, who was woken up from sleep by the noise made by Satoru and the kids. Yes, he is here. Sorry, Tetsuya. Blame Satoru for the noise. Oh. Suguru. Come inside, let's have some fun and play some games, invited Satoru as if it were his room. Naoya looked at the ungrateful brat and wondered if he should kick him out. Sorry for the intrusion, said Geto and got inside as well, not giving it much thought. He walked up to Satoru and smacked him. Colluding with the enemy? Are you betraying us? Asked Geto. Huh? The hell are you talking about? I am bringing Naoya to our side. Look, I even got us 2 runts for free with Naoya, replied Satoru, playing along and showing off Maki and Mai to Geto. Come in as well, Tetsuya. Just hang out and relax. You must be quite tired today. Considering the racket that they will make, I hardly believe you would be able to sleep in your room, invited Naoya. Kuriko looked at the chaos that was unfolding in the room and decided to join in as well. After a while, another knock came from the door, making Naoya question what was happening here. Naoya had set up a game console and a TV in the room for entertainment, and right now a game of Smash was going on. Satoru, Maki, Mai, and Kuriko were playing with Geto being on the sub for losing the last match. Right now, Kuriko was the public target, the boy was too good at it, and for once Maki, Mai, and Satoru made a truce. Naoya opened the door and spotted familiar people there. What are you all doing here in boys' dorm? Asked Naoya. In front of him, Yutaheim, Yuki, Shoko, and Mei were standing. Shoko showed her phone and it showed a text from Satoru. A party is going on here and we want in, demanded Shoko. Yutaheim face-bombed and was blaming herself. Why were they in the boys' dorm at night? Naoya blinked in confusion and then glared at Satoru, who kept inviting people without telling him. All right, come in. Though if we get in trouble, you all are the ones to blame, said Naoya, though before they entered he pointed at Mei. Also, she stays away from the kids, stated Naoya. Mei blinked in confusion and looked inside the room and realized what the junior meant. Don't worry. I only go after little boys, said Mei, trying to reassure Naoya. The rest of the girls and Naoya looked at her and wondered why she was saying it like it was totally fine. Chapter 62 Nope. I surrender. The next morning arrived. Currently, all the students who were gathered in the Kyoto Jujutsu High were passed out in Naoya's room. At some point during the night, things got a little too competitive, and they continued playing the whole night. In the end, Naoya showed them how a true master plays and came out as the one with the most wins. Kuriko was second, but the difference in the number of wins between him and Naoya was too much. Surprisingly, Mei and Satoru came in a joint third place, much to Naoya's and Satoru's surprise. They were not expecting the freaky senior to be so good at games. During the night after getting to talk with all of them, Naoya came to an understanding that even though, like most sorcerers, each of them had a few screws loose, they were all good people. Even Mei. She was a very knowledgeable lady, especially in the field of money. Shoko, true to her role as a healer, was very knowledgeable in the medical field. So much so that even Naoya, who prides himself on his knowledge in diverse fields, was not able to keep up with her. Suguru was somehow similar to him, not just from the point of view of their techniques, but also their ideology of sorcerers being there to protect the weak and ignorant common folk. Naoya, too, believed in that since he was young, and though that feeling had weakened quite a bit, he still had some belief regarding that. Good morning, muttered Yutaheim as she started waking up, though she still felt a bit groggy. She rubbed her eyes and looked around, feeling that the surroundings looked a bit strange. She blinked for a while and then realized where she was. She checked on the people around her, all of them were asleep. Satoru, Suguru, and Kuriko were wrapped in a single sheet like a burrito, and so were Maki and Mai. The rest of the girls were not wrapped up but still shared a sheet with their branch member. She was partnered with Yuki, but the senior seemed to have slipped out of the sheet, giving Yutaheim the sheet all for herself. Her gaze then moved towards the bed where Naoya was sleeping peacefully all alone. Must be him, thought Yutaheim. They didn't have these sheets on them last night, so someone must have brought them, and seeing that Satoru and the kids were wrapped up in a burrito while Naoya was sleeping freely, it was easy to guess who the culprit was. Still, she didn't complain. The boy made sure that they won't get cold at night after all when they intruded out of nowhere. What's this hard thing? Wait, why am I stuck? Suddenly, a voice came, making Yutaheim turn towards the one who spoke, and she saw the white-haired special grade waking up. Suguru? Oi, Suguru. Wake up, called Satoru in panic. He was feeling something hard around his thigh, and he didn't want to confirm what it was. What happened? Asked Yutaheim with worry. Who the F***ck is screaming this early in the morning? Asked Naoya, woken up by the commotion. Naoya? Did you do this? Asked Satoru. Huh? Yeah, we were short on sheets. You were sleeping alone. Yeah. I didn't want to sleep under the same sheet with a man. Maki and Mai kick a lot in their sleep, so they too were eliminated, replied Naoya. I am not going to complain, just move these two away from me, said Satoru in a calm but serious tone. What happened? Asked Naoya. Satoru didn't say anything and just stared at Naoya seriously before gesturing something to him. Naoya thought for a while before realization dawned on him, and he immediately unwrapped the human burrito before spraying ice-cold water at the two boys. Satoru immediately opened the window and threw the two out. Yutahime blinked in surprise, not understanding what was going on. Naoya and Satoru sighed. Right now there were more than just boys present in the room, and they didn't want the other two to be ashamed of popping a morning wood in front of the girls. Phew. Mission accomplished. Prevented lifetime trauma. The two special grades fist bumped at the job well done, though to the others, their actions just looked weird. Later that day, outside the barrier where the first event occurred, the students of the two branches stood on opposite ends. They had their team meetings and have submitted their respective team plan to the authorities. Now they were waiting for the announcement for the second stage to begin. Here, senpai, take this, best of luck, said Naoya. The first fighter from Kyoto's side was Yutahime. She didn't want to be an opener, but unfortunately in the draw that they did she was unlucky. The order of the Kyoto side was as follows. 1. Yutahime. 2. Kuriko. 3. Yuki. 4. Naoya. Tokyo's order was not known to them, but if Gojo was not going to open, then Yutahime was a good choice as an opener. She was quite an experienced sorcerer and could hold herself up pretty well even in dangerous situations. Why are you giving me a gun? Asked Yutahime. To blow a hole in the opponent if needed, replied Naoya. If I will use that in a friendly battle? Yelled Yutahime. You complain so much. All right, take this then, said Naoya, and this time handed a metal bat to her. The bat may look normal, but it was actually a grade 2 cursed tool. Yutahime took the bat from Naoya, thinking that it was all right to bring it to a friendly match and gave it a few practice swings. It has a good feel, wait? You have a cursed tool shaped like a baseball bat? Made it specially for you. Consider it a gift. Go smash some skulls, said Naoya and gave her a thumbs up. She stared at the bat for a while and soon shook her head. She never knew that the first gift that she would ever receive from a boy would be a baseball bat to fight others. She gave a nod and walked towards the barrier. Best of luck, senpai, cheered Kuriko. Don't be back soon. Try to take them down, added Yuki. She was hoping that she could be the first one to enter just so she could beat the other side as soon as possible and have Gojo appear, but it seemed like that fate, aka me the writer, had some other plans. Attention to students. The second event of the Goodwill event starts now. First participants from both sides enter the barrier. Once the announcement was done, a small crack appeared in the barrier, and a door-like opening appeared. Well, I am going, said Yutahime and got serious. The rest gave her a nod in return, and Yutahime got in the barrier. Once she went inside the barrier closed again, preventing others from entering. Yutahime walked further. The place was huge, considering that it was the same field that was used for the team event. However, due to the destruction caused by Naoya and Satoru, the entire landscape was barren. There were no places to hide, most of the rubble had been cleared, but there were still many broken trees and rocks lying here and there. It's Iori-senpai. Go easy on me. Seeing the first-year girl from the Tokyo branch as her first opponent, Yutahime was slightly relieved. Sure, the girl was given grade 1 status, but that was not because of her combat skills. She was given that status because of her capability to heal others using RCT and how useful it was for society. Still, she didn't let her guard down. She had not seen her fight yesterday, so there might be a chance that Shoko might be able to put up a fight. 1 minute later. I give up. Yua. Senpai. So strong, cried Shoko, who was defeated in a single light non-cursed energy-enhanced punch. Forget what I said. She is no fighter at all, thought Udemy, and even felt bad for hurting her junior, who could not fight at all. Winner Kyoto? 1 minute break starts now. Second participant from Tokyo, be ready. The announcement came, and Shoko looked at Yutahime and gave her a bow. Well then, senpai. I will go back now, best of luck. Yeri, do you know who I will be fighting now? Asked Yutahime hopefully. Now, senpai, I can't be giving information to the enemies. That is a no-no, said Shoko and made a cross with her fingers and walked out of the barrier. Ugh. From now on, whoever it will be, it is going to be difficult. Calm down, Yutahime. You can do it. Just think about how annoying that damn Zenin will get if you lose badly. Do your best, yelled Yutahime and cheered herself. Soon the second participant from the Tokyo branch arrived, and Yutahime got serious. Hello. Senpai, are you surrendering? Asked Suguru Geto with a smile. Yudaheim's grip around the bat tightened as she got ready to strike. Don't worry about me. I can handle myself pretty well, replied Yudaheim as the cursed energy coated the bat. Curse tool? Do you think just a bat would be enough to deal with all of us? Asked Geto as cursed spirits started pouring out of him. He didn't summon any grade 1 spirit or higher since he didn't want to be too much in front of a grade 2 sorcerer like Yudaheim. Yudaheim sized the spirits around her, took a deep breath and focused intently on Geto. If I get entangled with the spirits, then there is no chance to win. I will need to aim for the summoner, thought Yudaheim and started running towards Suguru. Suguru looked at her uninterested. In his eyes she was at least not foolish enough to go for the spirits and aim directly for him. Not like I don't know how to deal with that kind, thought Geto as the cursed spirit emerged from the ground and aimed straight towards Yudaheim. However, the moment the cursed spirits got a bit close to Yudaheim, her hand moved swiftly and smashed through the cursed spirits using the cursed tool. Simple domain. The domain that she painstakingly learnt from Naoya was finally somewhat usable during a fight. She needs a lot of concentration to keep it active, but it still gave her a near-perfect sensing in her domain. Any foreign cursed energy entering inside will be notified, and she could react to that. Suguru's eyes widened a bit in surprise. Still, it only lasted a bit, and many more curses ran straight towards Yudaheim. Yudaheim grabbed the bat with both her hands and gave a wide swing to it, using one of the cursed spirits as the ball and smashing it straight to the other cursed spirits, halting them for a bit and increasing her pace towards Suguru. You are good for a grade 2. Looks like I showed Solo Forbidden Area. Not even interested in the talk, Yudaheim activated her innate technique. Solo Forbidden Area, a boosting technique of sorts, that amplifies the cursed energy and cursed energy output of any sorcerer the user considers their ally, even themselves. Without the whole ritual it isn't much, but it should still. Thought Yudaheim with a smirk. And true to her thought, Suguru was not able to adapt to her instant change in speed, thanks to the sudden increase in her cursed energy reinforcement output. The cursed energy around the bat increased as well, and the amplified cursed tool struck Geto's waist with full force. Home! Run! Yelled Yudaheim as if giving a war cry and sent Geto flying. Geto spat out as pain surged around his waist and started spreading. He glared at Yudaheim and instantly 10 grade 1 spirits came out of him and launched towards Yudaheim. Huh? Nope. I surrender, yelled Yudaheim and dropped the bat. Winner Tokyo. 1-minute break starts now. Second participant from Kyoto, be ready. The announcement came almost immediately, and a barrier surrounded Yudaheim and protected her from the grade 1 spirits. Ha! Almost got caught up with grade 1 curses. Oi! Don't you know that it is a friendly spar? How dare you attack me after I surrendered? Yelled Yudaheim. Suguru looked at her with his brow twitching. The people in the observation room looked at Yudaheim with a similar expression. Does she get to say this after almost cracking his ribs? Thought all of them. Even the students had a screen that was showing them how the fights were going on inside the barrier, and they too had a similar thought. Is she getting more like us? Asked Yuki and looked towards Naoya and Kuriko. Both the first years looked at each other and shrugged their shoulders. Chapter 63, Kuriko v/S Geto. Yudaheim soon emerged from the barrier. She was about to say something to others, but the moment she turned to them, she noticed them looking at her weirdly. Suddenly, the three of them started clapping. Surprised by their actions, Yudaheim blinked in surprise, though soon a smile appeared on her face. Hee, I tried my B-dash. You finally realized how fun it is to beat people up, said Yuki a bit emotionally. Huh. To think the little spineless girl grew this much. Yuki muttered, dramatically wiping an imaginary tear. I raised her well. Oi! What is happening here? What is Senpai saying? Asked Yudaheim. Naoya walked closer to her and gave a firm pat on her shoulder. Welcome to the club. You are one of us now, said Naoya with a smile on his face. What club? What one of us? I don't want to be like you, complained Yudaheim. One of us, cheered Kuriko. One of us, cheered Naoya and Yuki. Yudaheim looked at the three of them with confusion, and after they finally told her what happened, she immediately tried to give the bat back to Naoya. Take it. I don't want to join your club. I want to be the voice of reason of the group, exclaimed Yudaheim. Naoya, who was now holding the bat, looked at it and soon got disappointed. It was a gift, so you didn't like my gift at all. Ah. Yutahime made Naoya sad, said Yuki. So ungrateful. Not cool, senpai, added Kuriko. Huh? I didn't mean it like that. It's not like I am ungrateful for the gift. It's a very good gift even. Here, give it back. I am sorry for hurting your feelings. Don't be sad, said Yutahime, feeling a bit guilty of her actions. It's all right, senpai. You don't need to say that because of peer pressure. I can understand, muttered Naoya and tried to take the bat back. Nope. It's mine now. The moment you gifted it to me, it became mine. No takebacks. Thanks a lot for the gift, said Yutahime and hid the bat behind her to make sure Naoya could not reach it. Naoya looked at her with a small smile, though on the inside, he was already rejoicing to see that his plan worked successfully. Soon, Kuriko gave his farewell to the rest of them and got inside the barrier. By the way, you fought well, said Naoya. Huh? Thanks, muttered Yutahime, feeling a bit shy from the sudden praise. Seeing her squirm around, Naoya smiled. She looked quite cute acting like that. Wait, what? Thought Naoya and became confused about his own thought. Back inside the barrier. Currently, Geto was checking the spot where Yutahime struck her earlier, and there was clear bruising in that area. I will get Shoko to look at it later. Crap, it hurts. Thought Geto and covered his body once again, seeing that his next opponent had arrived. Kuriko-kun. I am gonna pay you back for last night's losses. Go easy on me, Geto-kun. I am only strong in games. Geto nodded, but didn't have any intention of going easy on Kuriko. He already saw firsthand what not being serious in a fight could result in, and the person he was about to face was someone even Mei warned him about. Cursed spirit manipulation. Multiple cursed spirits started to flood the area as Geto activated his technique. Kuriko, seeing that, didn't waste a second and activated his technique as well and vanished from Geto's sight. Dead space. Geto, already somewhat aware of Kuriko's invisibility, got alerted and activated the cursed energy reinforcement to counter if an attack comes out of nowhere and counter him. Spread out and search, ordered Geto as the cursed spirits started to look for the human enemy. Though none of them had the faintest idea about where to search for him. Geto kept his guard up and stood at his spot, and had a few of his cursed spirits hidden underground as well to launch an attack when Kuriko got close. Sadly for him, the area that they were fighting in was too wide for him to utilize the same tactic as Mei. Kuriko was already expecting a similar strategy from Geto, and had already taken appropriate distance from him.
Look, if you've actually made it this far into the video and you're still here, come on then, hit subscribe. And honestly, if you think a friend of yours would like this, go on and share it with them. It really helps out. Right, I'm done. I'll get out of your hair now so you can get back to the good stuff. But seriously, stick around till the end. It's well worth it.
What is he planning? Thought Geto. He was on guard for quite some time and had even given some opening for Kuriko to take bait and attack him, yet he didn't receive any attack. Geto looked around to check if his curses found something, only for him to narrow his eyes at a sudden realization. Many of my curses are dead. Thought Geto, realizing only now that some of his curses suddenly disappeared. Kuriko was not just hiding. He was thinning out Geto's curses without getting noticed at all. Only grade 3 and semi-grade 2 spirits fell. It seems that's his limit, muttered Geto. Thinking that Geto let out more of his stronger curses to be on the lookout, while he himself rode on top of a flying curse and got up in the air. How's that, Kuriko-kun? Can't hit me now, can you? Asked Geto, trying to taunt Kuriko. And what Geto said was true. Kuriko didn't have a reliable long-range attack to strike Geto. However, despite all that, Kuriko didn't respond and kept hidden from Geto. 2 minutes later. Time passed as Geto and his curses had no sight of Kuriko, who kept on doing his stealth assault on the curses. The curses were dying, Geto could see that, but when and where they died he didn't know. Ah. It's getting boring, thought Geto in frustration. Come out now, will you? It's getting boring. You seriously want to fight like this, you? Wait, who am I fighting? Yelled Geto, though by the end he got confused and started looking around. What's going on? Asked Geto, but no answers came to him. He knew that he was in the middle of a fight, but whom he was fighting he didn't seem to recall who he was fighting. This revelation suddenly made him a bit stressed. He checked the area below him to look for the enemy, but could not spot anything suspicious. "Start destroying the area," ordered Geto. He wanted to conserve his cursed energy to fight the special grades, but the sudden creepy feeling made him reconsider that idea. The curses looked at Geto, seemingly suffering from the same confusion. They too didn't know who they were fighting or where they should attack. Still, because of the orders, the curses started attacking and destroying the already destroyed field, yet none of them seemed to have struck their unknown enemy. Kuriko, who was under the influence of dead space, was standing far away from all the commotion that was going on. He saw the confusion that was going on the battlefield and knew very well that he was responsible for it. In fact, it was something he planned. Dead space initially might seem like a technique that makes the user invisible, but that's not how it worked. Instead of making the user invisible, it makes others not register the user in their brains until and unless the two make eye contact. Though that was just the initial phase of the technique. The dead space had a more complex and patient approach to it. True, it made others not register the user of this technique, but if they were aware of the fact that they were in a fight with the user, and then the user activates this technique and slips out of the opponent's sight, the other aspect of the technique gets activated. The second aspect is divided into multiple phases. Phase 1, Attention Slippage. Duration 60s. It works similarly to normal dead space. The target can't precisely track the user unless they make eye contact. Phase 2, Task Confusion. Duration 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how the opponent's brain works. During this phase, the targets slowly start to forget about the user until they entirely forget that they were fighting the user. They still have the idea that they were in a fight, but who they were fighting they can't recall. Phase 3, Target Deletion. Duration 5 minutes. Once 5 minutes pass without the target's brain actually registering Kuriko's presence precisely, they completely forget about the user and all the situation that has been going on around them that involves the user. Any danger they seem to be feeling from the user is ignored by the targets. Phase 4, No Guard. Once the first 3 phases are over, the user of dead space is rewarded for their patience. Beep beep. Kuriko's wristwatch gave a chime that the 5 minutes were up. "Time to get the job done," muttered Kuriko and started running straight towards Geto and the curses. Geto blinked in confusion, not able to understand what he was doing in a destroyed field and why his curses were destroying the area around him when the area already looked quite beaten up. "What is going on? What am I doing?" muttered Geto and tried to find someone for answers, yet no one familiar was in sight. "I don't know what is going on. Better save up my and the curse's cursed energy in case of emergency," muttered Geto and started to call back his curses. The curses started to move towards their summoner, and suddenly curses started to get sliced up out of nowhere. Geto's eyes widened in surprise. In an instant, many of his cursed spirits were killed. Kuriko, who was still in dead space, was moving without getting detected and cleaving through the cursed spirits with the cursed daggers that Naoya gave him. The final phase of his technique was the active, and it had just a simple function. All targets who have passed the threshold of the first 3 phases take the absolute damage from Kuriko's first attack. No form of cursed energy defenses worked for that attack. Kuriko himself was not that strong, but combined with this ability, even he could take down high-level curses. Kuriko looked around and checked the surroundings and immediately found a path to Geto. Since the Grade 1 sorcerer had recalled the curses around him, many of the taller spirits were gathered in the area, and Kuriko immediately made his way on top of them. After jumping on some of them, he appeared directly above the airborne Geto. He looked at Geto and sheathed the daggers. It was a friendly fight after all. Still, he took a deep breath and gathered as much cursed energy in his palm as possible. "Let's see how effective it is in a fight," said Kuriko and landed on the flying cursed spirit as well without getting noticed by Geto. He took a stance and with all the force he could muster struck Geto's gut, specifically where Yutaheim had hit him earlier. Ignite Strike. The cursed energy-enhanced strike hit Geto without any sort of protection. "Ha!" muttered Geto, feeling someone touch him, only to find himself flying straight towards the ground. Geto looked towards the cursed spirit he was standing on and by chance caught Kuriko's eye and immediately all information about Kuriko and the situation came back to him. The sudden information surge made him lag for a bit, and that time was enough for him to crash straight into the ground. "Phew," muttered Kuriko, feeling relieved, but suddenly he too found himself falling. He looked at the curse he was standing on, shook him off, and a moment later, a giant one-eyed cursed spirit was coming straight at him. "Sure dash," said Kuriko, though before he could finish, the cursed spirit punched Kuriko, sending him crashing into the ground as well. F***ck. "What is with this Kyoto bunch?" said Geto, standing up from the crater, bleeding heavily from multiple spots and clutching the spot that Kuriko struck him earlier. He glared at the spot where Kuriko crashed and sent some of his curses to check on the enemy. The earlier strike from Kuriko landed cleanly, but Geto was not an inexperienced sorcerer. Before he could crash, he had already activated his cursed energy reinforcement. If not for the information overload, he could have done more to minimize the damage, but complaining now won't help him. Winner Tokyo. The announcement came as the curses showed and an unconscious and brutally injured Kuriko, who was bleeding heavily as well. Seeing him unconscious, Geto sighed. So much for not being good in a fight. Seriously, since when do grade 3 sorcerers get this strong? Muttered Geto and sat on the ground while suffering from the pain that was slowly becoming worse thanks to adrenaline leaving him. On the audience side, the people from the HQ and even the Jujutsu High were surprised by Kuriko's performance. The talk about him was spreading in the room, and out of nowhere, the idea of his promotion to a grade 2 came up. Surprisingly, no one was against the idea at all. Chapter 64. How's that fair? Winner Tokyo. 1-minute break starts now. Third participant from Kyoto, be ready. Once the announcement was made, Geto gave a relieved sigh and placed Kuriko on the ground and summoned back all his cursed spirits. He was already quite tired and beaten up from his 2 fights, and those were the weaker opponents. He knew well who would be his next opponent, and he was in no way thinking that he could win in his current battered-up situation. Sup? Hearing the voice, Geto looked up only to spot Naoya approaching. Don't worry, just here to pick Tetsuya. Yuki-senpai will be coming in a moment. Good fight earlier. Reacting to Tetsuya after all that was impressive. Well, best of luck, said Naoya and placed Kuriko on Senzu's back and walked away while healing Kuriko. On his way back he met Yuki, who was now going to join the fight. Go easy on the guy. He is already quite injured, said Naoya. Don't worry. I will end it in an instant. I don't have the patience to wait too much for my rematch against Gojo, said Yuki. Best of luck with that. Knowing Satoru, he would have found a countermeasure to deal with you by now, said Naoya and walked out of the barrier. Yuki wanted to ask Naoya what he meant by that and give him a piece of her mind, but the barrier closed once Naoya exited, leaving Yuki a bit sour. With a grumpy look, she walked up to the center of the battlefield and saw the beaten-up Geto sitting on the ground. Damn, you look too roughed up. Wanna surrender? Asked Yuki. Don't worry about me, senpai. I can still fight, replied Geto and stood up with a bit of struggle. Yuki just shrugged her shoulders, not willing to argue more. If the boy wanted to get a beating, then who was she to stop him from that? Start. Before Geto could even bring out his cursed spirits, Yuki had already kicked a balled-up Garuda at him, sending him crashing straight into the edge of the barrier, knocking the air out of him and making the boy fall unconscious. Geto was too injured to react to the attack and was thus taken out in an instant. Yuki held back a lot by not actually making Garuda any heavier than it already was and just used her technique on herself to make her kick carry a bit more oomph. Winner Kyoto? 1-minute break starts now. Third participant from Tokyo, be ready. The announcement came and Yuki summoned back Garuda. On the other side, Gojo dragged Geto to Shoko for her to heal the kid. Mei looked at the barrier and raised her hands. I surrender, announced Mei. The control room heard Mei's response and just shrugged. They were not going to blame the girl for being self-aware. Third participant from Tokyo surrenders. Winner Kyoto. Fourth participant from Tokyo, be ready. Hearing the announcement, Yuki smirked. She got the chance for her rematch quite soon. Satoru looked at the battered Geto and then towards Shoko. Looks after him. I have a debt to settle and a friend to defeat, said Satoru and stretched his body. Best of luck, Satoru, said Shoko. Don't get beaten up like yesterday, Gojo, said Mei. Huh? I did not get beaten up. At best it was just a draw. I will show you who is the better special grade amongst us, replied Satoru and walked inside the barrier and ran straight to the center of the field. Yuki was already getting restless, thinking of the fight and seeing Gojo finally arrive, she barely held herself back from attacking. Satoru stood with his usual calm expression and with a smug smile. Ready to lose, senpai? I will be going all out from the start today, said Satoru. You sure? Last I remember you broke your arm quite badly. Is it fine now? Asked Yuki with a smirk. Huh, you mean that scratch? Man, now you fixed me up in a second. For that I will make sure to take you down soon and go on to fight him, replied Satoru with a smirk. Naoya, huh? He told me that by now you might have found a countermeasure against me, said Yuki. As expected of him. He knows me very well. Well, then let's not waste any more time, said Satoru with a smile. Start. The announcement came and Yuki immediately sprang into action, jumped up on Satoru along with Garuda. Satoru, though, didn't stand back this time. He activated his technique immediately and appeared above Yuki and Garuda. Yuki looked up and was about to grab Garuda and use it as a launch pad to dodge any incoming attack. Gojo, however, simply smiled at them. Immediately, Yuki and Garuda felt themselves get pushed down by something. What's up, senpai? Feeling heavy? Asked Satoru and continued to crush Yuki with space. He used infinity to expand the space between himself and the two. The space was itself acting like a solid wall. You can become heavier, but don't necessarily become massive. Your density is increasing, but your tensile strength is just what it was, said Satoru, and he got a bit closer to Yuki to crush her even more. The question now is, how long can you survive the space pressure? Asked Satoru with a smirk. Yuki glared at Satoru and used Star Rage on herself. Immediately, she started to sink into the ground. Using your technique? Too bad, I already calculated that. It is just like you said earlier. You only add virtual mass to yourself. You don't necessarily get heavier. You will remain in place, replied Satoru and tried to crush her even more. Yuki's face scrunched up in pain, though she continued to glare and use her technique. Haha. Still struggling? Just give up now, will you? Satoru's 6 eyes were locked in on Yuki and Garuda, and he kept on checking if the two of them were up to something, but from what he could sense, she was just using her technique on herself, which was not going to change the outcome at all. Yuki was now bleeding from the pressure on her, though despite all that, she kept increasing her mass. Right now she was limit testing and trying to see if she could overwhelm the infinity's effect. I am reaching danger levels, thought Yuki. She was about to increase her mass to a level that it won't just be virtual and decided to stop. She stopped using her technique and closed her eyes. Seeing her like that, Satoru eased up, crushing her. You surrender? Yuki gritted her teeth but soon sighed and gave a nod. Yay, victory for the better cheater, declared Satoru and lifted the space wall from her. Freed from the pressure, Yuki started using RCT to heal herself. Winner Tokyo. 1-minute break starts now. 4th participant from Kyoto, be ready. Yuki came back to her team with a dampened mood. None of them said anything to her. They didn't know what to say to her. They knew how much of a sore loser she was. Senpai, called Naoya. Yuki looked up at him. Losing sucks, right? Asked Naoya. Yudahime looked at him with shock. Was the boy trying to antagonize Yuki, who was down from her loss? It sucks. It sucks a lot, replied Yuki. Then what would you do now? Mope around or focus on what to do to punch the smug face of Satoru? You won't just take this loss as is, right? Asked Naoya. Yuki blinked in confusion. Why was she feeling down? If she could not punch the guy in the face now, she would just need to find a way to do so. Not to mention she did hold herself back from destroying the boy and the world along with him. She could totally find a way to bypass that space stopper. You are damn right. I will find a way to punch that smug brat. Just you wait, declared Yuki confidently. Naoya smirked, gave a firm pat on her shoulder and walked through the barrier. It was finally time to whoop the sun's ass. Good luck, Zenin. Make sure to win, said Yudahime. Go. Defeat him this time and avenge me. I will do that the next time, cheered Yuki. Naoya just gave a nod and entered the battlefield. Yo? Naoya. It's finally time for our legendary duel, declared Satoru. It really is. You sure that you won't cry after your loss? Asked Naoya. Ha. Me lose? It is you who will be losing today. In fact, just to show how confident I am in my win, like always, I will give you the first move, declared Satoru and gestured for Naoya to come to him. Naoya shrugged and accepted the deal. He had a theory to test anyway. Both of them gave a nod. Start. The announcement came and Naoya took a stance. Satoru immediately activated his infinity, make Naoya's actions pointless. Try your worst. Not like you will even be able to touch, taunted Satoru. Slap. In an instant, Naoya stood near Satoru, and his slap clearly landed on Satoru, sending him flying. His sunglasses flew off his face and landed in Naoya's hand, and he placed them on himself. How's this, Satoru? Do these glasses look good on me? Asked Naoya without any care. Satoru, on the other hand, was not able to register what just happened. He placed his own hand on the cheek that was slapped to confirm he was not daydreaming. Ack! It stung. What happened just now? Thought Satoru with seriousness. All his playfulness disappeared in an instant. Did you bypass my infinity just now? Asked Satoru seriously. Naoya looked at him with confusion. Huh? Did you have that active? I wasn't stopped. Are you sure you activated it, or are you just messing with me? Asked Naoya. Did I mess up? Thought Satoru. Naoya genuinely looked confused. Let's try again. Activate your infinity, said Naoya. Satoru nodded and activated his technique once again, and gave Naoya the go signal. Naoya nodded. Slap. Once again Naoya appeared near Satoru in an instant and landed a clean slap on his face. There. It happened again, complained Satoru, and landed cleanly while holding his cheek. The slaps genuinely hurt a lot. That's weird. If you are activating that technique and you are still getting hit, doesn't that mean I have found a way to hit you now? Asked Naoya with a smirk. Satoru blinked in shock, and soon his hand rose and he pointed his finger at Naoya. You were bluffing? Asked Satoru. Not bluffing. Just testing a theory, and it looks like dash, replied Naoya and vanished from his spot. It's working quite well, finished Naoya, appearing directly behind Satoru and trapping him in a frame. With his projection sorcery active, Naoya ran around to gain a bit of momentum and struck the frozen Satoru with all the force he gained. Crack! The frame shattered and Satoru came crashing out of it, already looking quite injured from the attack. You okay, son? Asked Naoya as he saw Satoru skidding through the ground only to stop quite far away from him. What is this? How are you touching me? Demanded Satoru. Just because you don't want to doesn't mean I will not stop touching you. I did work hard to master a technique to touch you, replied Naoya with a smirk. Tell me. Why should I? Just because. Aren't we brothers from different mothers? Asked Satoru. Well, good enough reason. You did tell me how your technique works, and I was able to decode it because of that. Come here, I will whisper it to you so that others don't hear me, said Naoya and gestured for Gojo to come closer. Without any hesitation, Satoru approached Naoya to hear the secret. The audience looked at the two special grades with annoyance. They too wanted in on the secret. It's the CTR of my technique. My projection sorcery works by breaking my movements into frames. The CTR breaks the concept of frames altogether. It drops all the frames in between except for the start and end frames. It's basically a frame drop. CTR, frame drop, explained Naoya, successfully showing his hand and completing the binding vow. Huh? How does dropping frames bypass my infinity? Think of it like this. I start the motion, but I don't actually pass through the space. Infinity doesn't slow me down since I did not actually move through the space. Finally, I appear where I need to and end my motion by striking you. It's like a lag in a video. Goku starts charging Kamehameha, the video lags, it resumes later, and we see Kamehameha already datoring the enemy. The whole charging and banter is not seen by us, but it happened and we directly see the end result, explained Naoya. Satoru blinked and started processing the information. Wait, aren't you simply tricking reality at this point? Asked Satoru. Now Naoya started thinking. It seems I am. How's that fair? I don't want to talk about fairness from Mr. No Touch Me. You still found a way to touch me. What is with you and your techniques always finding a way to counter mine? I am a firm believer in the if it can hit Satoru, then it can hit almost anything mentality. Change that mentality. I want my cheat to work. The game's getting patched. This patch itself is a bug. The two continued to whisper and argue against each other, totally forgetting that they were in the middle of a battle. The audience looked at the two with irritation. The two were not fighting and were not letting them in on the secret. How was that fair at all to them? Both participants, you two, are in the middle of a fight, came an announcement. Naoya and Satoru looked at the sky hearing the announcement, but promptly ignored the higher-ups. They were in the middle of a heated discussion. Chapter 65, Don't Teach Your Father How To. After the two special grades were done with their discussion, they sat cross-legged on the ground. So how is it gonna be? I can now go through your infinity. Do you still want to fight? Asked Naoya seriously. He didn't want to needlessly hurt Satoru. Satoru knew what Naoya was implying as well. Heck, his cheeks were still hurting because of the slaps he got from Naoya. He knew very well how physically strong Naoya was, and now that he didn't have the insurance of infinity, he could not effectively stop the physical attacks. But when has a problem ever stopped him from trying to kick Naoya's ass? What the hell are you on? I can still beat you quite easily. I am Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerer alive. There is no way we are stopping now, declared Satoru and stood up, and moved his hand for Naoya to stand up as well. Huh? You strongest? When I am sitting right in front of you. Looks like I need to knock some sense into you. Don't complain later, replied Naoya and took Satoru's hand to get back on his feet. The two of them smirked at each other. Now give me my sunglasses. Huh? Finders keepers. What finders? You stole it. Sounds like a skill issue to me. This bastard. Give it back. You are ruining my style. The two started arguing once again, and in the end, Naoya decided to give back the glasses. Not because he gave up though. He was starting to feel hungry and wanted to get this over with as soon as possible. Both of them took some distance from each other and then looked towards the barrier above them. Give the start signal again. Hearing the request, the higher-ups finally gave a relieved sigh. The problem children were finally going to fight. Start. The moment the announcement came, Satoru pumped in his cursed energy reinforcement and started running around. From Naoya's explanation, CTR, frame drop skipped the process and manifested only the result. If Satoru kept changing positions unpredictably, he could reduce the chance of Naoya locking onto a precise endpoint. It was a good plan, since Naoya couldn't actually predict where Satoru was going to move and just appear there and strike him. It just has a teeny-tiny flaw. Naoya didn't just have a single technique. Where are you going, son? Asked Naoya, running right beside Satoru with nothing but pure speed. Satoru looked at Naoya, who had already caught up to him and failed to notice the solid shadow wall that appeared in front of him, making him almost crash into the wall. Though that small pause was all it took for Naoya to activate CTR, frame drop and land a solid punch on Satoru, sending him flying. Satoru winced in pain and glared at Naoya. Naoya, though, was not going to give any more chances to Satoru. Before Satoru could get in control of his body, Naoya appeared directly above him and landed a kick, sending him crashing to the ground, making a small crater. Satoru stopped the extra impact with him infinity, but Naoya was already in front of him once again and touched him with his projection sorcery active, trapping the Gojo air in a frame. He then proceeded to partially summon Nu and fly up with his projection sorcery's enhanced speed, and once he was at a considerable height, he activated projection sorcery again to launch back towards Satoru and, with all the momentum in him, struck the frame, though he still decided not to use cursed energy reinforcement on Satoru. It would have been too much. Inside the frame, Satoru was completely defenseless, and once the frame shattered, he was shot out with his entire body screaming in pain. Satoru gritted his teeth through the pain and pushed Naoya away with his infinity, and appeared directly above Naoya and started to push him against the ground with his infinity, just like he did to Yuki. Naoya, though, was far more durable than Yuki and had enough strength not to immediately get crushed by the space. He looked at Satoru, who was already starting to look quite battered up, and used frame drop once again to land a punch on Satoru, once again sending him flying. What part of me not going through space do you not understand? Asked Naoya, and used RCT to heal the injuries he received from Satoru's infinity press. The bastard used far more force on him than he used on Yuki. Naoya suddenly felt his body being pulled and saw Satoru already stabilizing his body midair. Satoru looked at Naoya with excitement and used his cured technique. Curse technique lapse, blue. With a hand raised, he manifested a blue above him that started to pull everything towards itself. Come closer, Naoya. You think a blue can stop me? Frame drop. Naoya vanished from his spot once again and appeared beside Satoru, and punched him once again. He looked at Blue and was about to run away once again, but suddenly he felt a pull once again. The thing is, this Blue is not for you. It is for me, replied Satoru, who did not get blown away this time thanks to the attractive power of blue. He looked at Naoya with crazed eyes and used a blue-infused punch to reel in the Zenin special grade. Take this, yelled Gojo and struck Naoya's gut with full force while making sure that he couldn't dodge and even receive extra damage from the blue-infused punch. Gah! Air rushed out of Naoya as Satoru's attack landed cleanly on him. Not yet. Seeing that he finally got an opportunity, Satoru went in for another punch. Though this time Naoya activated his cursed energy reinforcement and combined it with frame drop to slam Satoru to the ground and used solid shadows to crush the blue. Satoru spat out as the punch cracked some of his ribs. The pain was something he was not very familiar with. He immediately tried to use RCT, but as usual he failed to transform his cursed energy into positive energy. While he was trying to change the nature of his energy, he gave Naoya enough opening to trap him in a frame. Naoya was already up in the air once again, directly above Satoru. Solid shadow, shadow cannon. A massive fist made of shadows shot out of Naoya's palm and headed straight towards the frozen special grade. The shadowy fist's speed was even boosted further with projection sorcery, making the massive fist strike the frame with even greater force and making a giant hole through the ground and planting Satoru inside. Naoya deactivated his solid shadow and looked intently at the hole. Satoru, you alive? Asked Naoya, now feeling that he did a bit too much for the poor guy. Inside the crater, Satoru lay on his back. He could feel pain. Too much pain all over his body. Blood was trickling down his face as he coughed up even more. He tried to move, but the pain made it quite a difficult endeavor for him. Satoru, you alive? Hearing the familiar voice of his friend, Satoru's mind became a bit clearer, and his thoughts started to shift from the pain. Me? Alive? After that hit, well, I am still alive. But why? Thought Satoru. His thoughts started to drift away from the pain. I am alive, so what? With this much damage, I won't be able to fight now. Not well, at least. Thought Satoru. Satoru. You okay? If you are, then give me a signal. Don't be playing pranks on me right now. I am genuinely worried I did too much, came Naoya's slightly panicked voice. Did too much on me, yet you look totally fine. Not at all looking battered up at all. Am I that weak for you? Thought Satoru. His eyes started to close and a series of memories started to play like a movie in his mind. How he was treated with respect since he was born. How he proved that he was better than everyone. How he started to get isolated in his own clan because of the difference between him and his peers. How he randomly met an amusing boy at the Zenin Clan and how the two became friends. He still remembered that when they met, and for a long time after that, he was the stronger one of the two, but slowly the other boy started to catch up. The boy who was weak-willed and did all he could to avoid a fight slowly started to change as he got stronger. He thought that the boy was finally understanding how fun it was to make a ruckus, but it seemed like the change in the boy was not because of that realization. It was because the boy got confident in his strength. The strength that he built step by step throughout his life. And now the same kid is up there worrying about me. When did you get so strong, Naoya? No, the real question is, why did I become so weak? Why did I continue to grow so slowly? Am I not the strongest, the chosen one? Looks like I am not, but am I content with not being the chosen one? Thought Satoru. While these thoughts were going through his mind, the cursed energy within Satoru's body started to settle. It got calmer and calmer. He didn't know yet, but Satoru's wounds started to heal, the bleeding stopped, and the cracked bones and torn ligaments started to get fixed rapidly. His body started to float up with Satoru looking at the sky, no, at the world in a trance. His body continued to float up, and Naoya, who was about to enter the hole to check on Satoru, stopped seeing the Gojo air looking. Hi? Satoru? Called Naoya. But Satoru didn't respond. His brain was going through something, and the entire world, the cursed energy within him, his technique, everything was making him feel calm. He heard Naoya's voice, but right now he was enjoying this amazing sensation that he was feeling. Did I hit him too hard? Thought Naoya and looked at Satoru in worry, and was about to stop him from floating further, but suddenly he stopped as he noticed something. His wounds, they are healed, thought Naoya. He knew how much power his attack packed, and he was not going to believe that it did not cause any damage to Satoru. Did he manage to learn RCT? Naoya narrowed his eyes. Fighting Satoru just got even more annoying. Naoya. Hearing his name being called, Naoya snapped out of his thoughts and looked at Satoru. What? Since I was a kid, I thought that I was better than all sorcerers. The strongest sorcerer of all, a chosen one, but recently I started to doubt that claim. Seeing your strength, I started to doubt whether I am the chosen one or not, said Satoru. Yup. Hit him too hard and now his screws are loose. And it might be true I may not be the chosen one, but you know, I am seeing this world around me. The heavens are looking at me, the earth is raising me. It finally made me realize. Continued the trance Satoru. Naoya blinked. He was having a gut feeling and he immediately took out his phone. Satoru's floating body finally stopped going higher, and the man looked down at Naoya with a trance-like look. Throughout heaven and earth I alone am the honored one, said Satoru and struck a pose. Naoya felt glad that he listened to his gut and recorded the Chunni Gojo in front of him. He put the phone back in his shadow, but suddenly his surroundings glowed red. Let's end the fight, said Satoru with a crazed expression. Are you doing a Goku and undergoing a power-up mid-battle? Asked Naoya and stared at Satoru. Curse technique reversal red. A small red orb formed at Satoru's fingertips, and he pointed it towards Naoya. Naoya simply stared at him, more specifically at the orb. He could feel the power that the orb was giving off. It would be in your best interest to dodge it, said Satoru and fired the orb at Naoya. Naoya simply raised his hand and opened his palm as shadows swirled on top of it. The moment the orb came closer, the shadows spread out and encircled the orb. The repulsive force of the orb immediately started pushing away the shadows, but Naoya simply pumped more energy into the shadows, making them trap the red and devour it before sending it straight into the shadow realm. Seeing his attack getting neutralized, Satoru's crazed look wavered a bit. Naoya looked at the shocked boy and smirked at him before he vanished from Satoru's line of sight. Don't teach your father how to F***ck, replied Naoya as a straight jab landed on Satoru, sending him straight towards the barrier's ceiling. Crash. Still want to continue? Mr. Honored One? Asked Naoya with a smirk. Satoru, already healing himself with RCT, looked back at Naoya with an equally wide smirk. Both of them knew the answer to that question very well. Chapter 66, End of the Goodwill Event. Satoru, who had healed himself, pointed his hand towards Naoya and pulled himself towards him. Seeing him appear beside him, Naoya immediately decided to distance himself so that he could give him some more space for attacking him through infinity. Satoru, though, had already predicted that. His brain was working faster than ever. Curse technique lapse, blue. A swirling orb of cursed energy pulled Naoya back, and immediately after that, a glowing red orb came straight at him. Curse technique reversal, red. Seeing the repulsive orb, Naoya immediately calculated his moves and used his own technique. Frame drop. Satoru blinked, and Naoya vanished from his spot, and now it was he again who was sent flying once again. Crack. He could hear the faint crackling noise of his cheekbone, but RCT immediately kicked in, healing him in the process. The initial hits were still hurting him more so than they were doing before he got his high, but RCT immediately negated the damage. This bastard is hitting me harder now, thought Satoru, though he felt excited at the thought. He was becoming more dangerous in Naoya's eyes. Naoya had realized that Satoru had undergone some sort of power-up or had a sudden realization, and that made it more important than ever to neutralize him. With RCT, unless he could knock him out before the damage is healed, then the fight won't end. He had more cursed energy than Satoru, but the magic eyes made Satoru more efficient than him. CTR was eating his reserves faster than the normal application of his technique. He has RCT now. I can hit him harder, thought Naoya and grasped the amulet around his neck. Will of Shadows, Funeral Tiger, Shadowbound Tiger Belt. The amulet released some cursed energy and then transformed and wrapped around Naoya's waist like a belt. New fashion choice? Wearing that huge belt won't look good, you know, said Satoru. Really? I think it gives me a predatory vibe, replied Naoya and activated the cursed tool. Cursed energy came out of the belt, and white and black markings appeared on Naoya's body. His eyes changed as well, along with his frame that got slightly bigger. His hair turned glowing white and got a bit longer as well. Huh? You copying my hair color now? Asked Gojo with a smirk, though he was surprised seeing Naoya's transformation. Naoya didn't reply and simply smirked back. Frame drop. With just a single punch, Gojo's entire right arm shattered, and the impact kept moving to the rest of his body, and many more bones in his body cracked up a bit. Ack! Winced Gojo as an unimaginable pain coursed through his body. He was sent flying once again, but RCT was back in action to heal him. RCT does not allow the use of normal use of infinity, said Naoya, already in place to attack the defenseless Satoru. Really? Whatever will I do? Asked Gojo in mock worry as he fired a quick red at Naoya. Boom! The red orb of repulsion blew up before he could counter or dodge it, sending Naoya crashing. Blood came out of his mouth, and he too had to resort to RCT to heal himself. I really don't like this red ball, thought Naoya. Being part of a great clan, he had substantial knowledge of how that technique worked. Still, since he had not seen it in reality himself, he was not yet familiar with the output of the technique, and considering that it was Satoru, he might literally be just learning it on the go and would improve as the fight went on. Both of them finished healing and locked onto each other once again. Both were wary of each other. They needed a decisive strike to take down their opponent, but both knew that the other wouldn't give enough time for that. I apologize in advance, Satoru, said Naoya, and used his projection sorcery. With the technique combined with his increased speed from the shadow-bound tiger belt, Naoya started running around. Satoru tried to track his movements and catch him off guard, but he traversed around him like a blur. One moment he was in front of him and the other behind. Pinpointing his next location was getting difficult. Whatever, said Satoru and raised his hand. Curse technique lapse, maximum output blue. The giant orb of swirling energy appeared above Satoru, and with a hand motion the orb moved around, attracting the rubble and anything that came in its way. Satoru moved it around him, trying to either pull him, Naoya, or at least slow him down just a bit before he strikes him. Naoya, though, was already familiar with the blue's output. He continued to run and build momentum. The ground behind him started to get pulled in with him, and the moment he felt some attraction from blue he used frame drop to skip out of its effect. He kept running for a minute, with Satoru getting more worried as the time went on, with Naoya not getting caught at all. He even deployed a second blue to reel in Naoya, but the Zenin didn't seem to be getting caught at all. If you are not stopping, then I will blow everything away, muttered Satoru as a glowing red orb started to form on his fingertip and blue vanished. Now, the moment red started to form, Naoya turned towards Satoru. Activating red required him to use positive energy, while infinity required curse energy, making Satoru vulnerable for the time being. Or so Naoya thought. The moment Naoya came close to Satoru, he got stopped by infinity, and got stuck in a frame himself since he failed to perform the assigned motion. Satoru smirked, seeing his plan work, and pointed his finger at Naoya. Hasta la vista, baby, said Gojo and fired the red straight at the frozen Naoya. Boom. The frame shattered as Naoya was shot out, receiving the full brunt of the damage. That wasn't the end, though. Red continued to move and exploded directly in front of Naoya, sending him flying and planting him in the barrier. Naoya? I am really liking this, Red. Let's do this again, said Satoru cheerfully. Naoya, whose entire system was still not able to register what just happened, took a second to process what just happened and partially summoned Senzu, and used RCT himself as well to heal himself rapidly. Oi! How the hell are you using positive and cursed energy at the same time? Asked Naoya in anger. This was not something he had ever seen. Look me in the eyes. What do you see? Replied Satoru with a smirk. Naoya blinked, wondering if Satoru was mocking him, but then it clicked to him. Those damn magic eyes. Hissed Naoya. Correct answer. My, you are so smart, replied Satoru and gave him a thumbs up. This F***king cheater, thought Naoya as a vein popped up on his forehead. Still, he calmed himself down and took a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Forget it. He asked for it, thought Naoya, and gave up on calming himself down. Shadows swirled around his palm, and he took out the inverted spear of heaven. Satoru looked at Naoya with amusement. Like a cursed tool would help, thought Satoru. Naoya unsheathed the spear that was still in the short sword mode and stretched his body once. Seeing him getting ready, Satoru activated infinity and red once again. Even if Naoya were to use frame drop and break through their infinity and strike him, he would let red blow Naoya away as well. Naoya finished his stretch and frame dropped beside Satoru and stabbed his thigh with the inverted spear of heaven. Ack! Why are you being a yandere? Here. Red, yelled Satoru and pointed his red towards Naoya. There was just a slight issue. The red wasn't there at his fingertips. Now that he thought about it, Naoya was moved through infinity without any difficulty as well. His gaze slowly moved towards Naoya, who was looking at him, waiting for him to realize how **ket up the situation he was in. Mercy? Asked Satoru. Sorry. Ran out of it, replied Naoya, and trapped Satoru in a frame before landing the full brunt of 79 strikes on him. The moment he broke free, he got trapped once again with infinity, not being active at all to protect him. Naoya even made sure that he could not run away by purposefully pinning him to the ground while using his technique on him. With no room to move too far from him, Satoru was essentially a punching sack for Naoya. Still, he showed some mercy by not reinforcing himself with cursed energy. After 2 minutes of continuous beating, Satoru lay on the ground in a Yamcha-like posture. He was healing himself with RCT, and Naoya simply took the inverted spear of heaven out of him. He vented out enough. Phew. That feels good. Are we done, Satoru, or are we fighting more? Asked Naoya and turned towards Satoru, only to find the crater empty. Take the amplified and reversal together, and smash both these expressions of infinity together, thought Satoru, who used blue to appear directly above Naoya. The red and blue started to combine, and a purplish glow started to come out of the orb that was forming at his fingertips. Seeing the glow, Naoya looked up and saw Satoru charging up a new attack. What the **ck is that? Together they create an imaginary mass. Push it out, thought Satoru and locked in on Naoya. Imaginary technique, hollow purple. The purple ball of destruction launched towards Naoya. Dodge it if you want to live, you bastard, yelled Satoru. I already dodged, you bastard, replied Naoya, appearing beside Satoru with Fram drop. Huh, yelped Satoru in astonishment, seeing that Naoya was right beside him. The two stared at each other for a second before turning towards the hollow purple. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. They saw the attack's destruction, how it cleaved through the ground and destroyed everything in its path. Soon, Satoru deactivated the technique. What the hell is this technique? It's called hollow purple. It is formed by merging my lapse and reversal techniques, stated Satoru. Explain the functioning, demanded Naoya. Eh? Why should I? Complained Satoru. Just because, stated Naoya. Satoru thought for a while and then gave a sagely nod. Valid. Come here and let me whisper it, replied Satoru and started whispering into Naoya's ears. As the explanation continued, Naoya's jaw continued to drop. By not going into too much detail, hollow purple worked like a shredder. A shredder that worked at the atomic level and pulled and pushed atoms at the same time with immense force to break them apart and destroy the object. You knew how it worked and still fired it at me? Asked Naoya in disbelief. Reeks. I would have stopped it if you were unable to dodge. Who do you think I am? Replied Satoru. You are insane. I know, replied Satoru calmly. Naoya didn't know what to say. His son suddenly got too OP all of a sudden. Satoru looked at Naoya with a smirk. He already had an idea about what was going through his head. Still, despite all this, he is not looking battered at all, thought Satoru and eyed Naoya from top to bottom. Except for a few torn clothes, Naoya did not have a single scratch on his body. He, on the other hand, was looking quite roughed up. Though his injuries were healed, he still looked like someone who got caught up in a fight. I give up. You win, said Satoru. Huh. Hearing him say that, Naoya got genuinely confused. Were his ears ringing? He placed his palm on Satoru's forehead to check if he was having a fever. What the hell are you and what did you do to Satoru? Asked Naoya. Just shut up and accept the win while I am being nice. If you were to use that cursed tool that you used earlier to fight seriously, I would have died by now. You, on the other hand, even dodged my ultimate attack. The only way either of us will stop if we seriously try to kill each other. Just take the win for now, you won't get the chance next year though. I would come back after becoming more amazing, declared Satoru and moved his fist forward. Naoya stared at Satoru for a while, wondering if he was being genuine or just acting nice for show. After feeling that he was not holding back, Naoya smiled and fist-bumped Satoru. I am happy that you know your place, don't forget it because next year too the outcome won't change. We will see about that. Now then, let's go and have some fun. The official stuff is over, now it is time for the after party, declared Satoru. Sure. Go and change and then we will go out for fun, replied Naoya. Yay, Suguru and Kuriko are knocked out though, well let's drag them along anyway. The two started to make plans already out of their battle mindsets. The audience, on the other hand, was left completely speechless. In just a single fight, Satoru Gojo became even more terrifying than he already was, and despite all that, Naoya Zenin barely harmed at all. The higher-ups who were dispatched from the HQ were already dreading the reaction these two sorcerers were going to get from the rest of the Jujutsu world once the report was made. Chapter 67, Talent and Luck. Once the higher-ups finally got back to their senses, they declared Kyoto the winner. The barrier began to dissolve, and Satoru and Naoya returned to their respective sides. When Naoya reached his group, he noticed that Kuriko was awake, though he was resting against a tree, clearly exhausted. You okay, Tetsuya? Asked Naoya. I am fine. Just almost out of cursed energy and tired from all the running around, replied Kuriko and yawned. Satoru and I were planning an after-party. Are you all up for it? Asked Naoya, looking at the three of them. No response came. Yutahime and Yuki were eyeing him without saying anything. They were still not out of the shock of the battle. Is something wrong with them? Asked Naoya. Kuriko shrugged his shoulders. He was asleep and only woke up after the announcement of Kyoto's victory came. He didn't see the fight between the two special grades. Forget Gojo, I first need to defeat you it seems, said Yuki. Yutahime opened her mouth, then closed it again. No words came to her. The sheer scale of power she'd just seen was overwhelming. What were you asking? Asked Yutahime, shaking her head to snap back to reality. Satoru and I are planning an after-party. You all interested? Huh? Is that even a question that needs to be asked? Of course I am in, replied Yuki. Count me in too, said Kuriko and got back on his feet. He was tired, but there were just a few days when he could play around with so many people. Me too, said Yutahime. Naoya nodded and called Satoru. Yeah, all are in from my side. Mine too. So where are we going? Food first. I am hungry. Sure. Let's meet in 30 minutes at the school entrance and then we go. Naoya ended the call and then called the Zenin Kyoto branch to make a reservation for them. We will meet in 30 minutes in front of the school entrance and then we depart, explained Naoya. The three of them nodded and made their way back to the dorms to change their clothes and freshen up a bit. Once all of them were prepared, they started to arrive one by one at the entrance. Naoya was the first to arrive, since he had to inform Kajinori and the twins that he would be out. The twins protested and wanted to join in as well, but Kajinori persuaded them to leave this one out. He probably wanted Naoya to enjoy the outing after the fight without the pressure of looking after the kids. Naoya himself didn't have any issues with Maki and Mai, but without something to distract them continuously, the two would get rather bored among some high schoolers. He also didn't think it was a good idea to expect others to help him entertain the kids after such a long day, and when they were out relaxing. After making a promise to take the girls out at a later date, he arrived at the entrance and waited for the others. He expected that it would take some time and sat on the stairs. Satoru just got hella strong, muttered Naoya and stared at the sky. He painstakingly developed a method to counter one of his techniques, and the bastard came up with 2 new ones, which were seriously not right to be that strong. He had the idea that red was a thing, but hollow purple was something he never expected to see. And if that wasn't enough, he could use cursed and positive energy at the same time. All attacks, defense, and healing at the same time. What kind of sorcerer can do that all alone? 6 eyes plus limitless is just unfair, thought Naoya and sighed. Well, who am I complaining to? Satoru was already meant to be the menace for the Jujutsu world. The world changed because of him. I just need to find a way to deal with that cheater's new cheat codes, thought Naoya. Maybe it is time to exorcise the general. You already arrived? Hearing the familiar voice made Naoya snap out of his thoughts. You arrived quite early, senpai, replied Naoya, seeing Yutahime coming towards him. She had changed into casual clothes, which were a stark contrast to her usual priestess outfit. She too took a seat on the staircase once Naoya gestured for her to join him. We won this time thanks to you, said Yutahime. Well, thanks for the praise. You did well too, senpai. That home run at the end was amazing too. See, I recorded it too, said Naoya and showed the recording of the scene to her. Wah. What is with you and recording these moments? Complained Yudaheim and tried to smack Naoya. Naoya simply caught her fists and laughed, making Yudaheim growl at him. She had seen how strong this junior of hers was, but for some reason he liked to do some idiotic things to mess with her. ****, whatever. It's not like I did something great in the fight anyway. You three were the star performers of the event anyway, muttered Yudaheim and sat back calmly. Naoya could sense the sadness in her tone and knew what she was getting at. Though there was nothing wrong with what she said, the other side was just too strong for her. Frankly, even many seasoned sorcerers won't be able to deal with the Tokyo lineup. The Kyoto lineup was quite strong as well, but if Yudaheim were to compare their fighting prowess with all the students, then she would rank second from the bottom. Senpai, I know that you might not like hearing my opinion on this matter, considering that the roles we played in a battle are completely different, but still hear me out, said Naoya. Yudaheim glanced at him and gave him the go-ahead. Being a sorcerer is probably one of the most frustrating careers out there. Most of the things in sorcery are decided by talent and luck alone. You might be a hard-working individual, but in the world where superpowers and special abilities are involved, frankly speaking, hard work can only take you up to a certain level. It is kind of frustrating and it might sound narcissistic coming from me, who is a special grade. But it is what it is. Satoru, too, is a special grade, but his talent is leagues above mine. I am keeping up with working harder than him, but I know the reality. If I stopped working hard, he would be ahead of me in no time, and even by working hard, I am just barely around his level. In this field, hard work won't be able to bridge the gap between an entire grade difference. You can just be better than someone within your grade, and if we stretch it a bit, maybe a lower-ranked person from a grade above, but that's it, said Naoya. Yudaheim stared at him with a blank expression. Was the brat trying to demotivate her? So, instead of moping over the fact that you cannot be someone OP and beat the shit out of people left and right, focus on what you can do better. Perfect what you can and try things to find anything new that could be added to your arsenal. It is better for the brain in the long run. Talent and luck may have set the ceiling for someone, but reaching that ceiling and making sure that you are better than anyone on or below, and even someone who is barely above you, is what you should be focusing on. Your speciality is support, and even then you didn't falter from jumping into a fight and making sure that you come back alive. That is a nice going. You just need to make sure that you keep that up. You can only complain about hardships if you are alive, so be thankful for that, said Naoya and gave her a reassuring pat on her shoulder. It might sound like I am demotivating, but that is just how reality is. Just promise yourself this and I am sure being a sorcerer would feel much better. Yudaheim blinked. Yes, the talk was demotivating. Maybe too demotivating. But she was not naive enough to deny what Naoya said. She has seen stronger sorcerers never return from a mission, and yet here she was sitting and complaining about not being strong. She was able to do this because she was alive despite being weak. Maybe I do have better luck than some, thought Yudaheim. Luck and talent, the two factors that drive most things in life. She might not have that much talent as a sorcerer, but her luck as a sorcerer was better than that of many who had better talent than she. She smiled faintly, seeing that Naoya smiled as well. So? Still moping around? Asked Naoya. Maybe, though not much. Moping, after all, is the gift to those who are alive, replied Yudaheim. The two chuckled at her answer and then started to pass the time. The others started to arrive soon after, and once everyone was gathered, they descended the stairs. There, cars waited for them, thanks to the Zenin hospitality. The boys got in one and the girls in the other. Hey, the treat is on us since we technically lost. Okay, said Satoru. They had made a bet last night when they were playing around in Naoya's room, and since they lost, they would be going through with this. Mei was not that fond of the idea, but still agreed and bet on Gojo getting the victory for them, but alas. Well, what's done was done. No use complaining now. Really? You sure? I am hungry, you know, asked Naoya and looked directly at Satoru. Satoru was about to ignore the comment, but then got a flashback of Naoya's light eating habit and blinked. Why am I having a bad premonition? Thought Mei. It was only once they reached the restaurant that she realized why she had that feeling. Naoya felt bad about having all of them pay for his share. Just not bad enough. Don't worry. Satoru will foot my bill. You three take care of the others. Huh? Why me alone? Aren't you a good boy? Asked Naoya. I am. Then pay this time. I will pay for the next one. Sigh, all right. But I will take my treat at a fancier place. Sure, sure. Hearing their discussion, Mei unknowingly sighed in relief. Chapter 68, New Family Member. A week passed by since the after-party. The Tokyo group had gone back 3 days ago. Satoru tried his best to stick around a bit longer, to the point that he spent half a day clinging to Naoya's back, and telling others that the two were somehow stuck to each other, and even used blue to make sure that if someone tried to pull them apart they failed. It was only when Satoru refused to get off him when he had to go to the toilet that Naoya politely made him get off him. After a tearful parting, mostly on Satoru's part, who was being too dramatic, the Tokyo group left. Currently, Naoya was in the Zenin family's backyard finishing his morning workout. System, called Naoya and wiped the sweat off his body. There is a long list and that's why I removed it. Its affect the listening experience, just think of like a little power-up. Grinding the stats has slowed down quite a lot, and most of the point increases came from his daily chances or achievements. The cursed energy section has also stopped increasing, meaning that his body has reached the limit to hold cursed energy. Any more than this would not be feasible for his body. Regular growth won't be enough anymore. Tomorrow's weekend, let's get this done with today, thought Naoya seriously. After freshening up, Naoya sat down for breakfast with Kajinori and the twins, and once he was done he turned towards Kajinori. Grandpa, I would be out late today. I have some stuff to do. Look after Maki and Mai. Nini going somewhere? Asked Mai. Some training. I will be a bit busy. Can you two be good and follow Grandpa's instructions? I will take you two out tomorrow, said Naoya with a smile. No worry. Mai is good. Maki too. Nini train hard. The twins cheered Naoya, making him smile back at them. The two were growing up nicely and have started studying properly too. The two were quite smart for their age but still had their childlike habits. Once Naoya sent the kids away to do their studies, he looked towards Kajinori, who was waiting to ask him something. Is it something dangerous? Training late at night out of the Zenin estate? Asked Kajinori. Not dangerous. Just unsure how much destruction could be caused in the process. It's a bit dangerous to do it at clan grounds, explained Naoya. Kajinori's eyes narrowed. If that didn't scream dangerous, then what would? Don't worry. It's mostly a calculated risk. The old man stared at his grandson for a while before sighing and agreeing. The boy was stronger than anyone in the clan, so it's not like anyone would be of help if he himself says that the situation is dangerous. After getting ready to go out, Naoya made his way to the school, and before the classes started, he went to the principal's office. Principal, may I come in? HM? Zenin. Come in. What is it? I am here to get your permission for something. Permission? For what? The field that was used for the Goodwill event. It's still not fixed, right? It's not. The HQ will send some personnel soon to deal with reconstruction. Why? I was hoping that I could borrow the field for some personal testing. I need an isolated space that can take on some hits. Gakuganji stared at Naoya in surprise. What could the boy be planning that required him to use the entire field? How much destruction was he going to cause? What are you planning? Confidential. I promise it won't cause harm to the school or the vicinity, probably. What's that probably at the end? *I**fine. We are a school that prioritizes jujutsu training. If it will help you with learning something new, I won't block your path. Come in the evening after the classes are over. I will inform the students, teachers, and the staff to stay away from the field. Got it. Thank you, Principal. Gakuganji nodded and wrote the application on a piece of paper and signed it for Naoya to make it official as well. Once that was done, Naoya walked out of his office and went back to his class. After the day was over, he himself asked Kuriko, Yutaheim, and Najino to make sure to stay away from the destroyed field. Yuki was once again gone out on her own, and thus made Naoya a bit more relieved about a possible interference. Just like that, the evening came. Naoya slowly made his way towards the damaged field. Rabbit escape. Mao, send the rabbits to check the perimeter, ordered Naoya. Mao gave a salute, and the demon rabbit army spread out immediately to follow the command. After Mao gave the OK sign, Naoya called back the rabbits and then started to prepare for the thing he came here for. Emerge from the darkness, blacker than darkness. Purify that which is impure. The curtain began to descend, and soon a barrier surrounded the field. After making some binding vows to make sure that no one could enter from the outside, nor anyone could go out, Naoya started the preparation. Will of Shadows, Divine Dog's Twin Fong Bracers. 2 metallic hands sprouted on Naoya's body, one white, one black. After giving his body a few stretches and practicing some movements to get familiar with the extra hands, Naoya drew the inverted spear of heaven from the shadows and, for the first time in a while, changed it to spear mode. Giving the spear a solid whirl and clearing the dust and debris around him, Naoya smiled confidently. Piercing Ox, Funeral Tiger, Max Mammoth, Great Serpent. The Shikigami jumped out of the shadows and greeted Naoya. Broly, Snow, Frisia, Mr. Hiss. Are you guys ready for one of the toughest fights yet? Asked Naoya. The Shikigami gave a confident nod. Listen, the moment you guys feel that you are in danger or are about to be destroyed, I want you to stop whatever you are doing and go back straight to the shadows. Also, if at any point in time Zankyo is summoned, go back without second thoughts. Okay. The shadows once again gave a nod. Naoya smiled and then tapped his leg on the ground. Solid shadow, shadow terrain. The shadows started to expand and soon covered the entire area under the curtain barrier. Broly, start running. M.O. With a war cry, Broly the ox stomped his feet on the ground and started running. Mr. Hiss, the moment it starts, poison it. Hiss. The snake Shikigami nodded and got ready for action. Frisia, maintain long-range support. Snow, we will be the vanguards. Frisia, the mammoth, trumpeted in response and readied itself to attack. Snow, the tigress, growled, ready to fight. Naoya nodded and looked towards Broly, who was about to reach the edge of the barrier and simply made a section of shadows around Broly to rotate like a disc while making sure the ox didn't fall by the sudden change in direction. The shadows gripped the ox's feet and allowed him to stay stable and change the direction in which he was running. With the preparations set, Naoya took a stance. With this treasure I summon. The moment the chant was invoked, the surrounding cursed energy got denser. A statue covered in bindings emerged out of the shadows and the shackles around it started to break. 8-handled sword Divergent Sela Divine General. The shackles kept on breaking until only the final one remained. Naoya glanced at Broly and changed his direction once again before taking a deep breath. Maharaga. The moment chanting finished, the final shackles broke and the restraints around the Shikigami disappeared. The **** the Divine General, stood in front of Naoya and the Shikigami and stared straight towards Naoya. Naoya stared straight at the Divine General as well, and before either could move, Mr. Hiss, just as he was ordered, fired a poison gas cloud towards the Shikigami. Naoya's spear got covered in cursed energy once the snake attacked, and a moment later, a resolute sound was heard in the surroundings. Click! With a swing of its arm, Maharaga blew away the poison cloud and launched straight towards Naoya. Naoya stood at his spot, took a stance and landed a solid uppercut on the general, sending him flying. The moment it got sent flying, the wheel above Maharaga's head spun. Click! So that's the adaptive mechanism, it's almost instantaneous. Thought Naoya, and the 2 new arms behind him clasped together. The shadowy ground below him rose in the form of a pillar, and from above, Mr. Hiss, who was now in his full size, smacked the general with its tail, effectively crushing the general between the snake and the shadow pillar. Naoya saw the giant humanoid Shikigami get squished in between the two. Click! The wheel spun once again and a moment later, Maharaga's body started to reform. The general pushed away the serpent and jumped back towards Naoya, his primary target. The shadows around Naoya started moving and instantly morphed into giant hands that caught the Shikigami and crushed him inside. If that wasn't enough, Naoya made spikes inside the grasp, impaling Maharaga from all directions. Snow! Called Naoya and jumped in along with the tigress. While he was fighting, he also kept an eye on Broly, making sure the bull wouldn't crash. Click! The moment the clicking sound came, Maharaga broke free from the shadows and launched straight out. He looked at Naoya, who was approaching him and readied its blade to slice him. Naoya, though, partially summoned new and changed directions mid-jump to avoid the general and struck him with the special grade spear boosted by a special grade's cursed energy. The single strike blew apart most of Maharaga's body and sent it straight towards Snow. The tigress's claws glowed with cursed energy, and she started tearing through the remaining Shikigami rapidly. Maharaga began healing as Snow tore through. Their speeds were almost identical. Click! The wheel spun once again and Snow's attack started doing less damage. Click! The wheel spun and the attacks got weaker. Maharaga's healing started to speed up, and he smirked towards Snow, who roared in anger. "Don't celebrate just yet." Hearing the familiar voice, Maharaga glanced back and noticed Naoya stabbing him with his spear. Raga waited for its wheel to click. However, the wheel didn't spin. On the contrary, it spun back in the reverse direction. The inverted spear of heaven seemed to be doing something to the Shikigami. Suddenly Snow's attacks got back its original effectiveness. Raga's non-existent eyes widened in shock. The spear didn't just stop him, it deletes the adaptations as well. Nice. With the projection sorcery active, Naoya pulled the spear out of him and struck him, freezing him in a frame before tossing the frame away. The tossed frame landed directly in front of Frisia, and it fired a pressurized stream of water straight at it, breaking the frame and sending the general flying, receiving multiple injuries. The wheel began to spin. Not so fast. With the spear in hand and projection sorcery active, Naoya stabbed the general multiple times, resetting the adaptation and slamming the general on the shadowed ground, causing the shadows to shatter up a bit. With the general stuck to the ground and void of any adaptations, the solid shadows got a hold of the Shikigami, holding him in place. No dash. Before Naoya could attack him more, the Shikigami broke free and kicked the sorcerer away and jumped right back into action. Immediately activating RCT, Naoya healed himself and saw the white giant coming straight towards him. Snow tackled the general and tore off his limbs in an instant, making the general fall face first on the ground. Mr. Hiss, in his small form, was tossed up in the air by Frisia's water jet, and once it was above the general it grew back to full size, ready to crush the general under it. Seeing the giant snake above her, Snow jumped back into the shadows and appeared beside Naoya, who summoned her back. Click! The wheel spun and Maharaga's limbs started to grow back. It readied the sword of extermination to slice apart the Shikigami, but the shadows below him rose in the form of blades and slice its arm off. But it didn't cut. Raga was already adapted to being cut. Seeing that it didn't work, Naoya immediately shifted the strategy and used the shadows to restrain the general and hold him in place. Crash! The snake finally crashed into the Shikigami, making it effectively go splat. Naoya waited for a sec, hoping that it was the end. Click! It wasn't. The snake's body started shaking as Raga started to slowly lift the snake, its wheel spinning rapidly, adapting to the weight. Go small! Ordered Naoya, already in motion, and appeared directly in front of Maharaga. Mr. Hiss got smaller and landed on Naoya's shoulder and wrapped around him as the sorcerer used his projection sorcery to land multiple strikes on the general before trapping it in a frame once again, since he hadn't readapted to it. Naoya looked around and made a hand sign, making Broly head straight towards him. Without thinking twice, Naoya threw the frozen general towards the bull and moved from the bull's path. Move! Seeing the target, Broly gave a war cry and activated its defenses. It was not planned to stop at all. With the horns pointed towards the frame, the two finally collided. Shatter! The frame broke and out came an injured Raga that took the full brunt of a charged-up Broly. Move! The bull roared and tore through the general without any resistance, breaking the wheel in the process as well. Naoya widened his eyes in hope, praying for the attack to be enough. As if his prayers were being answered, the divine general's body started to disintegrate along with the wheel and go back into the shadows. Seeing that, a sigh escaped Naoya's lips. Thank God it ended without me needing to go nuclear on him. If not for the spear, few 10 shadows subjugation complete, muttered Naoya, his body loosening a bit. He has read records about the general, and thinking of the subjugation without going nuclear made him feel a bit of the pressure. All right, everyone. Good job, called Naoya, and the Shikigami cheered in happiness. Being Shikigami, they knew better than anyone what Maharaga was capable of. If not for them ganging up in their host's magic spear, the fight would have turned quite ugly. Naoya called them and thanked each of them for their help before calling the rest of his Shikigami out as well. Well, let's meet your new family member now, shall we? Asked Naoya with a smile and summoned the newest member of the group. Chapter 69. Maybe he could adapt to this too. Ding. Exorcise 10 Shikigami, 1 point, collect. Tame all 10 shadows Shikigami, +1 to all stats, collect. Naoya accepted the rewards, then returned to the task at hand. Maharaga. With the hand signs made, Naoya summoned the divine general out of the shadows. The rest of the Shikigami waited to meet their new member. And soon the divine general appeared in front of them. From just a look, Naoya could tell that the Maharaga in front of him was different from the one they just exorcised. The one that stood in front of them now had a bigger wheel and had golden markings on its body. The clothes that he wore also looked regal, with the black baggy pants now having accents and a golden sash around its waist to match the rest of his accents. The most noticeable change, though, was the wing-like structures on its head. The pure white wings he had changed to jet black ones. The final change that Naoya noticed was that the general now had blades attached to both his arms, and they seemed retractable too. Maharaga glanced at the Shikigami for a while, scanning each one of them before shifting its non-existing eyes towards Naoya. The two stared at each other for a while before Raga bowed to Naoya. "No need to bow, buddy. You are part of the group now," said Naoya, patting the Shikigami's shoulder, making him stand back on his feet. While checking out the Shikigami, Zenkyo felt a bit uncomfortable. It felt as if his position as the strongest one in the group was in danger. Feeling the gaze, Maharaga looked at Zenkyo and felt that this Shikigami was strong as well. The two stared at each other for a while before they were made to snap out of their thoughts by Naoya. "Maharaga, did you gain some new abilities after you were exorcised?" asked Naoya. Getting to know each other was important, but the curiosity about the Shikigami's abilities took priority. Maharaga gave a nod and started demonstrating his new abilities to the group. Well, the new Divine General was certainly not to be underestimated at all. He didn't gain many abilities, but the ones he gained were quite something. 1. The wings on top of Raga's head could now assist him in flying and hovering. 2. The wheel above him was now quite durable, and a copy of it could be taken out of the wheel to be used as a projectile. It was very heavy and could cause severe damage. 3. The blades, as Naoya hypothesized, were retractable and were sharper and more durable than before. 4. Sword of Immunity, Eightfold Severance, a new ability that it got. The final ability that the general got was, quite frankly, broken. Though this ability did not cause any damage to the opponent, it still turned the tide of the battle beyond belief. Once Raga is done adapting to a technique's phenomenon, the particular antibody gets imbued in his swords. He can then slash or stab his opponents and choose between causing them damage or vaccinating them. Each time the target gets their vaccine shot, that particular technique's function gets weaker and weaker, and if the 8th shot makes sure that the part of the technique stops working altogether. Raga can reverse the vaccination process if ordered, but if not, the effect stays permanently, even after Raga's death or unsummoning. Here's a more detailed breakdown of the process. First hit, something feels off, technique requires more CE. Second, technique lags. Third, output drops. Fourth, activation stutters. Fifth, 7th, partial failure. 8th, functionally dead. The only saving grace with this was that Raga cannot do attacking and vaccinating at the same time, but that too was just a minor inconvenience. On a side note, since Raga cannot speak, he sat down and scribbled the entire process on the ground for Naoya to understand. He even drew a smiley at the end, like this technique was not just a career ender for sorcerers. Raga, who was sitting on the ground with his legs crossed, looked at his summoner, wondering if he understood everything. "I am so glad potential boosting is done after an exorcism." "Well, Maharaga, as is the tradition here, we need to name you," said Naoya. Maharaga nodded and waited like a good boy to be named. "What is this weird urge to name you Opstapa?" muttered Naoya. Maharaga tilted his head, thinking that the name was a bit weird, but somehow it fit him. After 10 minutes of brainstorming and going through various names and rejections, the name was finally decided. "It's decided then, from now on your name will be Sephiroth, Seph for short," said Naoya. Sephiroth, the Divine General, nodded and stood back on his feet. The two of them smirked at each other before fist-bumping. After that, the whole group had a bonding session, and as Naoya had predicted, Zenkyo seemed to be developing a rivalry with Raga. Done with the job, Naoya dropped the curtain barrier and went to the office to thank Gakuganji, who was staying behind in case a situation were to arise. Later, when Gakuganji went to check the ground, he could see the signs of a battle happening there, and by the looks of it, something huge happened there. The damage was mostly controlled by the shadows, but some of the damage still passed through, particularly the final strike by Broly, which was not something that could be minimized much by the shadows. Forget it. The school's still intact. The people from the HQ would be fixing the field and forest anyway, thought Gakuganji, and decided to go home and rest for the day. The next morning, when Kajinori woke up and decided to go on his morning walk around the compound, he heard the sounds of the siblings laughing around. Maki and Mai awake this early, thought Kajinori to see what was going on. It's Naoya's training ground, thought Kajinori, realizing where he was heading and from where the sound of the twins laughing was coming from. Maybe they woke up since Naoya came late and wanted to play with him, thought the grandpa, and unconsciously smiled and walked to the ground to check on them. However, the moment he arrived there, his smile started to fade, and his jaw started dropping. Is that? Thought Kajinori as he saw Naoya holding onto Mai, while sitting on Maharaga's back, who was flying around while dodging the water blasts from Frisia, the mammoth who had Maki sitting on top of him. It seemed like the twins wanted to play around, and Naoya was dragged in to make sure that the twins remained safe. Faster! Seth, cheered Mai. Frisia. You can do it, cheered Maki. What in the god's name is happening? Muttered Kajinori. He could recognize the new Shikigami as the divine General Maharaga, the pinnacle of 10 shadows. But what he couldn't understand was why the hell was a being of such capabilities being used as a play tool by kids. Here, use this, said Zankyo and handed a gun to Maki to shoot down Maharaga. Suddenly, a long whip-like thing came and smacked the gun from Zankyo's hand. Zankyo turned around and saw Twister, the toad, giving him a disapproving gesture. The two Shikigami stared at each other for a while before Zankyo gave up and dematerialized the gun. He will get his shot later. The fact that he also noticed Naoya keeping an eye on the situation made him stop. His summoner's attacks hurt like hell after all. Grandpa! I made a new friend, called Mai and waved at Kajinori, seeing him. Ah! No fair. Seth is my friend too, complained Maki. Kajinori blinked and processed the info he just got. The strongest Shikigami of all, a friend to kids, I am getting too old for this sh*t, thought Kajinori. Naoya laughed, seeing Kajinori's reaction confuse Mai while Maki focused back on hitting the flying general. Once they were done playing around, Naoya looked at Maki and Frisia, who were chuckling to themselves. The two didn't hit them while they were up in the air, but once they got down, Maki ordered the mammoth to spray water on Naoya and Mai. Nini. Spray water on Maki too, complained Mai. Agreed, nodded Naoya. No Maki tried to protest, but Frisia followed Naoya's order and made the other twin drenched as well. Haha. That's what you get for cheating, said Mai. Nini, yelled Maki, tearing up a bit and rushing towards Naoya. Naoya picked up the girl and patted her back, trying to calm her down. Cheating is bad. Maki-chan is not a bad girl, right? No. Then it's fine. Good girls don't cry. Just play around and enjoy. Maki sobbed for a while before she finally calmed down. Once she was calmed, she looked towards Mai, who was waiting for her sister to finish crying. Maki-chan is a crybaby. I am not. The sisters started bickering. The older Shikigami, Naoya and Kajinori, knew that they would be at it for a while. Maharaga, though, looked at the scene and wondered if his powers were being used for the wrong purposes. He suddenly felt a pat on his back, making him look at Zankyo. You will get used to it, said Zankyo. Maharaga looked at him for a while before he saw the twins running around him, while also using his large legs as hiding places and distractions. He was about to step aside, but Naoya shook his head and made him stay there until the twins were done playing. Naoya was taking pictures and recording the scene, and although the camera didn't capture the Shikigami, the scene still looked nice to him. Once they were done, Naoya took the twins to take a bath since they were drenched and he didn't want them to catch a cold. After breakfast, Naoya gathered in the main courtyard along with the rest of his Shikigami, standing around him. Are you ready, Naoya-sama? Asked a servant. Naoya looked at his Shikigami, who looked back at him and gave a nod. Naoya looked back at the servant and gave a nod as well. All right, all of you stay still, said the servant and operated the cursed object camera that is used for taking the pictures of cursed spirits, cursed techniques, and Shikigami. The Shikigami gave their best expressions possible and posed for the group photograph. This was a tradition that Naoya followed whenever he got a new Shikigami, a group photograph with the whole squad. The Shikigami might be just weapons to others, but to him they were as close as a family. Snap! Maharaga looked at the group around him and thought, maybe it wasn't that bad. He knew that he was mostly used as a fighting machine, and he prided himself on that too. Welcome to the family once again, Sephiroth, said Naoya with a smile. Maharaga looked back at him and after a while gave a nod. Maybe he could adapt to this too. Chapter 71, You are just jealous of how adorable I am. The weekend passed without any further ridiculous events. These 2 days, Naoya spent time limit testing Maharaga's adaptation and Sword of Immunity, 8-fold severance. Tearing and biting from the wolves and tigress, pressurized water jets for piercing from the mammoth, slashing and stabbing from Zankyo, and electricity from Nu. These were the ones Maharaga had adapted to. He wanted to test more but decided against it. The Ox Zankyo's nuclear capabilities were frankly overkill, and to let Raga adapt to that, he needed to use those attacks, and he wasn't fond of taking care of the aftermath of such attacks. Broly had just increased strength, but Zankyo's nuclear attacks and domain would cause irreparable damage. Not to mention, they were Naoya's safety measures if Raga were to be Majin Vegetaed. The inverted spear of heaven was there to cancel the adaptations, but in case for some reason the cursed tool was not with him, then he would need other measures. Curse techniques came in many shapes and forms, so being cautious felt like the right choice to him. While on his way to school, Naoya suddenly remembered something. I haven't told my father about him yet. Taking out his phone from his shadows, Naoya called the old man. Hello? What is it? Asked Naobito in seriousness. Nothing, just called to check up on you. So how are you? Asked Naoya, used to his father's serious tone. Seems like you are too free these days. Just because you performed well in the Goodwill event doesn't mean that you can laze around, chided Naobito. The news of the Goodwill event is trending in the Jujutsu world right now. Though there was no visual confirmation, the reports from the observers of the Jujutsu HQ were enough to place Naoya, Satoru, Yuki, and, surprisingly, Kuriko as massive threats. Geto was also a hot topic, but his impact was not as massive as the others. Though that was not new news for the Zenin clan. They knew how strong Naoya and Satoru were from their constant fights and how close the two of them were. Though his win still made them have the bragging rights over the other clan, and they were very giddy from the outcome. Naobito was proud as well, but being the stone-headed man he was going to make sure that his son wouldn't get complacent. I am not slacking off, you know. I just called to check up on you. You can just act happy that your cute son called you. You are too old to call yourself cute, retorted Naobito and snorted. Humph. You are just jealous of how adorable I am. Anyway, I exorcised Maharaga. Bye, said Naoya, ended the call and threw his phone into the shadows. Huh? Why, spoke Naobito, but by the time his brain realized what happened, the call had already ended. He tried to call his idiot son again, but he was not picking up the call. That undisciplined brat! Yelled Naobito, surprising the elders and the other members of the clan who were working right now. Naoya chuckled, imagining his fuming father, and started his daily climb of the staircase. After finishing the normal classes, Naoya, Kuriko, and Yutaheim were currently having their lunch in the cafeteria. Yuki, being a 4th year, did not have many classes, not like she cared much about them anyway, and had gone out on her usual trip. So? What was the reason for blocking the destroyed field? Asked Yutaheim. Like others, she too was informed about not going near the field on the day of the exorcism. She knew that Naoya had a part to play in that and was now trying to get some info out of him. Don't spill the beans to others. I needed a place for a potentially dangerous exorcism ritual for a new Shikigami. The destroyed field came in handy with that, said Naoya. Kuriko and Yutaheim focused on Naoya. They had some idea about how strong Naoya's other Shikigami were, so hearing him say that there was a potentially dangerous Shikigami involved meant that this new one might be quite stronger than others. What kind of Shikigami is it? Is it cute like your wolves or rabbit? Asked Yutaheim. Oi. All my Shikigami are cute and or cool, retorted Naoya. Yeah, now tell, said Yutaheim and brushed off Naoya. It's strong and big. It looks cool too, replied Naoya. Yutaheim understood from that. The Shikigami was scary looking. Kuriko, on the other hand, was interested. Strong and cool. 2 keywords that struck him in an instant. After their lunch, Naoya secretly showed Sephiroth to the two of them. He didn't want the teachers there to learn about his new Shikigami, but his friends were fine. He could trust them somewhat more than the staff and teachers. Kuriko and Yutaheim were in awe seeing the muscular giant. Yutaheim was literally terrified of the giant, and even Kuriko was a bit shaken by him. Sephiroth at first couldn't register Kuriko, but once told by Naoya, soon adapted to that. Now Kuriko's natural low presence was no longer an issue for the Divine General. Not that the boy knew about it. After all, Naoya didn't tell the other two about what the new Shikigami can do. After the Shikigami's grand reveal to the friends, Naoya and the other two continued their jujutsu-related classes and began training. Back at the Zenin Clan Kyoto branch. After the school was over, Naoya decided to call Naobito back and explain the situation to him. The moment the call came, Naobito gave him a sermon, making Naoya consider the cliffhanger route once again, but he decided against it and told Naobito about the new Shikigami. At first, the clan head was in disbelief. The Divine General was not a Shikigami that could be handled easily, and as a testament to that, there were no records of a sorcerer ever exorcising it. Yet his son was claiming that. He wanted to say that he might be dreaming, but at last he accepted the reality and was overjoyed by the news. He wanted to share it with the rest of the clan, but was soon brought back to reality by Naoya. Maharaga was one of his trump cards and was not meant to be revealed to others until necessary. The only ones who knew about it were the ones whom Naoya trusted. Even the servant who clicked the picture was someone directly under Naoya, and one who was quite loyal to him too. Telling about the new Shikigami to the clan was not needed. They still had most people supporting him, and the news wouldn't necessarily bring new changes to the political landscape of the clan. It was better to save the news for when it is needed. After talking some more with Naobito and even letting Kajinori have some talks with him, Naoya went back to his training ground. After all, as Toji says, the grind never stops. Tokyo. Currently in a convenience store, Suguru Geto was picking up some snacks. He lost to Gojo and Shoko at rock, paper, scissors and had to go all the way to the store to get some stuff. Sometimes I feel that living all the way in the Jujutsu High is a hassle. I mean, would it kill them if they built some stores near the area? Mentally complained Suguru and checked the shelves and the list the other two had given. While going through the list, he did not notice someone coming into the aisle he was in and crashed into them. Ah! Feeling the impact, he immediately looked up and saw a woman crashing into one of the shelves and hitting her head. Ah! I am sorry. I wasn't looking, said Geto, panicking a bit. Ouch, it's okay. Don't worry, ouch. Geto put his stuff on the ground and walked up to the lady to help her stand up, only to widen his eyes in horror. The lady had some stitch marks on her forehead, and it seemed like because of hitting the sharp edge of one of the shelves, she got a cut and was bleeding. Are you okay? You are bleeding, said Geto and helped her stand up. The lady stood and touched her forehead and indeed saw blood on her hand. Looks like I hit the edge. Don't worry. I am fine, said the lady with a kind smile. Are you sure? Asked Suguru and focused on the stitch marks. The stitches are mostly healed and these are just the marks. Don't worry. It's just a simple injury, said the lady with a smile, trying not to worry the boy in front of her. Hearing that, Suguru sighed and told her to come with him to get some first aid from the store for the wound. What he failed to notice was the knowing smile that the lady had as she eyed the boy, as if already knowing who he was. Chapter 72, Peaceful and Fortunate Day. While training on the grounds, the Kyoto students were suddenly called by Najino. What's the matter, sensei? We got some important orders from the HQ. Considering the timing of their arrival, I am hoping that you all know that these are related to the aftermath of Goodwill event, said Najino in a serious tone. Naoya, Yutaheim and Kuriko looked at the papers in Najino's hands and got a bit curious about them. First of all, Kuriko, you have been recommended for a promotion by the higher-ups. Effective immediately, you will act as semi-grade 2. You will be assigned your evaluating sorcerer shortly for a detailed analysis of your capabilities. Congratulations, said Najino with a smile. Congrats, Tetsuya, cheered Naoya excitedly and patted the boy's back. Congrats, Kuriko. Do your best in further evaluation, added Yutaheim. Thanks, replied Kuriko. All right, stop chattering. I have more announcements to make. Celebrate later, said Najino. Yeri, your evaluation that was on hold has returned, and you have been promoted to grade 2. Congrats to you too. Yay. Way to go, senpai. As expected of our senior. The two boys clapped, making Yutaheim feel prouder. Lastly, I still can't believe that they agreed to this, muttered Najino and looked towards Naoya. The students looked at their teacher with confusion, not understanding why there was a dreadful look on the man's face. Zenin, you have been assigned to a mission to subjugate a potential special grade cursed spirit, said Najino with a serious look on his face. Hearing that, Naoya and the others widened their eyes in surprise. The emergence of a special grade cursed spirit was nothing short of a disaster. The amount of damage it could cause is something that no one could calculate, from leveling a city block to leveling multiple cities or even more. The range was too wide for ranking them. The only thing that could be said confidently about them is that normal sorcerers won't be very effective against them. Grade 1 sorcerers are considered elites, but that was just for the normal ranking sorcerers. Anomalies were out of their jurisdiction. They might hold out the special grades, but a decisive victory against them was almost impossible for Grade 1 sorcerers. Special grade sorcerers were the only definitive hope to fight against special grade curses, and Naoya understood that very well. The only thing that confused him was why Najino, a seasoned sorcerer, was acting like that after reading the news. He soon got that answer. You will be accompanied by another sorcerer from the Tokyo Jujutsu High. Satoru Gojo will be joining you on this mission, said Najino with a helpless tone, already imagining the issues that were going to arise because of the team. Naoya blinked in surprise and soon a smile appeared on his face. Satoru is coming too. Yutaheim understood why Najino was worried, and she shared his sentiment. Seeing Naoya's happiness confirmed her worries even more. Ring ring asterisk. As if on cue, Naoya's phone started ringing. Naoya looked at it, and it was indeed Satoru calling him. Satoru. Naoya, you heard? I heard. The two of them started talking excitedly about the mission, and each detail made Najino question HQ more. Like that, the two of them chatted for a while before Naoya pretended to cut the call and walked away. In Tokyo, Gojo did the same, moving away from his friends. So, what do you think is the real reason they are deploying both of us? Asked Naoya seriously. I don't know. Knowing how much of a nut job those higher-ups are. They should be trying to keep the two of us apart, especially after getting the recent reports about us, replied Satoru. The two special grades might act as if they don't care much about the things going on around them, but they were more aware than anyone about their situations. Something fishy was going on in the HQ, and the two of them were somehow getting dragged into the mess, but about what it was, the two had no idea. Are they testing us or something? Said Naoya. Highly possible. They might be trying to see how in check can the two of us be. A special grade curse just appeared on time, added Satoru. Well, we will deal with the issues when they arrive. I will have some of the insiders gather the information, replied Naoya and shrugged his shoulders. I will do the same. Being part of the prestigious clans, the two of them had no shortage of subordinates and spies planted across various important and strategic places, including the clans, Jujutsu HQ, and even the government. Still, let's enjoy this outing after so long. Let's go out to play before and after the mission, said Satoru. Sure. On that note, if the curse is good, can I keep it? Asked Naoya. Sure, no issues to me. Suguru might pout later though. He was grumbling that you had more special grade Shikigami/cursed spirits than him, and since then has been planning to get more, said Satoru and chuckled. Welp, finders keepers. Sounds like a him problem to me, replied Naoya. Haha. He will fume with anger if he hears that. Well, see you soon. Bye. The call ended and Naoya headed back home. He needed to pack up for the mission and inform the kids and Kajinori too. The next day, Naoya got in the car sent by the Jujutsu division and headed towards the site. Good morning, Zenin-sama, greeted the driver. Good morning, replied Naoya with a smile. Any idea about the mission? Mister. You can call me Sato, Zenin-sama. As for the mission, I will tell you about the details, said the man and started speaking. Naoya listened intently to the mission details and got a basic idea of what they would be dealing with. The mission site was MT Fuji, where a cursed spirit that looked like a dragon had made a base. Let's be clear once again, King Dragon had taken MT Fuji as his base. The dragon lacked intelligence, but its destructive power was enough to give it a special grade status. It was officially titled Rainbow Dragon by the HQ, and it had already killed many Grade 1 and Special Grade 1 sorcerers who were not even able to make as much as a dent in the curse. Just clarifying before you all start pointing fingers at me. Yes, Rainbow Dragon is unranked in the official material, and I am taking the liberty of making it a special grade curse. As far as I know, a grade 1 sorcerer is supposed to be able to easily defeat grade 1 curses, and so is the case for other grade 1, 2, and 3 sorcerers. I don't think normal grade 1 sorcerers can defeat the dragon easily. Also, special grade curses are beings that can destroy cities easily, and the dragon could quite literally do it just by flying around the city and destroying the buildings. Plus, it's a dragon. I am gonna say that it's based on the fear of dragons. That's gotta amount to something. Naoya was now more than excited to get the cursed spirit in his arsenal. Strength didn't matter much to him when the thing was a fricking dragon. Seriously, getting a cool Shikigami and after that hang out with Satoru. Can this day get any better? Thought Naoya with a smile. It most certainly could. When Naoya arrived at the location, he got off and saw Satoru already waiting for him. His gaze landed on him but soon moved away from him. There was someone more important than him. Ruriko-san, called Naoya excitedly and as if teleported near her. Satoru blinked in surprise. He was not even able to see Naoya move and get past him. He turned around and saw Zenin talking happily with his mom. I should have stopped Mom from tagging along, thought Satoru. Naoya-kun. Long time no see, said Ruriko with a smile. I am here too, you know, called Satoru. Naoya looked at him with an uninterested gaze and shooed him. A few veins popped up on Satoru's face, seeing that reaction, and he thought to fire a purple at the ungrateful bastard. What are you doing here, Ruriko-san? Asked Naoya. Satoru told me he was going to MT Fuji and I wanted to go on a hike. So I tagged along, replied Ruriko. Oi, idiot. Do you not know how dangerous it is to bring Ruriko-san here? Asked Naoya and smacked Satoru. I told her to stay behind since it was dangerous to be here. But she insisted and told me that I was not confident enough to deal with the curse. It was a matter of pride now, replied Satoru and rubbed his head where he was smacked. Naoya looked at Satoru as if he were looking at the world's biggest idiot. Fufu, don't be harsh on him, Naoya-kun. I pushed my way through. Sigh. Whatever, I will make sure that you are safe, Ruriko-san. You can count on me, said Naoya and tried to act reliable. My, so dependable, said Ruriko with a teasing smile. Haha. Seeing his friend and mother like that, Satoru unconsciously started forming a purple around his fingertips. Naoya looked at the glow and looked at Satoru dead in the eyes, warning him to deactivate the technique. He didn't want Ruriko to get caught in the attack. Satoru stared back for a while before deactivating the technique. Knowing Naoya, he would surely fold him once he gave that look. Once they were done joking, Naoya assigned Satoru to be Ruriko's bodyguard. His technique was better suited to keep her safe. Not to mention, he had a cursed spirit to capture, and that was his priority at the moment. He asked Satoru to stay at the foot of the mountain with Ruriko until he gives him a signal. He went ahead to deal with the dragon, and just as he expected, he wasn't disappointed at all. The dragon was huge, with a pale, glowing body and bulging golden eyes. It was resting around the tip of the mountain and was eyeing Naoya, the intruder that entered its territory. The hostility in the curse's eyes was clear, and this made Naoya even more excited. The cursed spirit rose from the ground and floated in the air before letting out a roar. Roar. The roar echoed in the surroundings, but that didn't make Naoya flinch even a bit. Emerge from darkness dash. He started the chant, and soon a curtain covered the area, making sure that no one saw what was happening inside. The dragon was already charging towards Naoya at full speed, ready to tear through the human. However, the moment it got closer, a shadowy giant army emerged from Naoya's shadow and grabbed the dragon's neck before throwing it away. Maharaga Zenkyo. 2 humanoid Shikigami emerged from Naoya's shadow and eyed the dragon. Rough it up. Don't kill it though, ordered Naoya. Understood, replied Zenkyo, while Maharaga just gave a nod and jumped towards the dragon, landing directly on its head and smashing it through the mountain. Zenkyo looked at the scene and materialized a giant cannon above him and pointed it towards the dragon. Cursed energy started gathering inside it as Sephiroth jumped out of the crater and threw the dragon towards Zenkyo. Boom! The blast hit the dragon, sending it flying and plastering it to the ground once again. Naoya looked at the curse and was a bit surprised at the result. The dragon may not be able to damage him or his Shikigami, but it too had not sustained any major injury. Just some cracks on its scales. Its speciality is its defense, thought Naoya. Naoya knew very well that Zenkyo and Seph were holding back, but still the curse looked mostly fine. He wanted to test its durability some more, but considering that they were fighting at a famous tourist spot, he didn't want to destroy the mountain completely. He already had some idea about the dragon, and that was enough for him to consider adding it to the roster. He got closer to the curse that was not warily looking at Naoya, who was being followed by the two Shikigami. The curse knew well that the opponents were not someone he could defeat, but they too could not kill it easily. Sadly for the dragon, it was wrong. CTR, Shadow Containment. The shadows around the curse started swirling and soon engulfed the dragon, and started to tear it apart. It was taking some time considering its durability, but after a while and a lot of struggle later, the dragon's defenses finally broke, and its actual body started to break. Its durability is no joke, muttered Naoya. It took him a full 15 minutes just to break the dragon's scales, and in the meantime it tried to get out of the shadows again and again but was bonked back in by Seth and Zankyo. Still, 5 minutes later, the dragon finally got subjugated. The shadows disappeared and Naoya finally sighed. He could still feel the dragon rampaging a bit in his shadow, but it was starting to calm down. Thanks, Seth. Zankyo. You two can go now. The Shikigami gave a nod and sank back into the shadows. Naoya wanted to check out the dragon as soon as possible, but right now he had company waiting for him and decided to postpone the appraisal for now. Well, time to go back to Ruriko-san. Today was very fortunate, muttered Naoya and made his way down the mountain. At the Jujutsu Division HQ. In a closed-off, dark space enclosed within countless barriers, a group of people was discussing something. There were 2 tables and both had several pictures laid across them. On one of them were the pictures of Naoya Zenin, Satoru Gojo, Suguru Geto. On the other table there were the pictures of Yuki Tsukumo, a black-haired girl with braids. The people in the room looked at the descriptions and were discussing something amongst themselves, and after discussing for a while they came to a conclusion and circled the image of the black-haired girl while crossing out Yuki's. Chapter 73. Well, let's hope you don't regret it. After Naoya descended the mountain, he joined the Gojos for the hike, and honestly it was quite different from the kind of things he was planning to do with Satoru, but it still felt nice to go on a relaxing hike, especially with the beautiful lady accompanying them. The only thing that prevented the hike from being perfect was the annoying white-haired kid who tagged along with them. Like, can't the idiot get a hint? Satoru looked at the shameless bastard who was cozying up to his mom and tried his best to make sure that neither of them stepped out of line. Ruriko found it fun to mess around with the innocent kid, and he was just making sure that the teasing wouldn't let them slip up. Honestly, father should be thanking me for all the things I do to save his marriage, thought Satoru, and stared at Naoya happily chatting with Ruriko. Being around Toji, Naoya has picked up quite a few moves from his cousin. He may not be as philanderous as the older Zenin, but he knew how and when to use the moves. Satoru saw that and didn't know whether to be impressed by his friend or be mad at him. Ruriko observed Seitru's reaction and thought she should stop teasing her. She didn't want to be misunderstood by her son after all. Not to mention, leading Naoya astray was also a no-no. "All right, boys, what else did you plan to do?" asked Ruriko. The 3 of them arrived near the peak, and she felt that the hike was good. She was a sorcerer as well and didn't feel much tired by the trek. Satoru and Naoya looked at each other. The playful air around Ruriko changed all of a sudden, and that caught them off guard. "We were gonna go for a movie after the curse subjugation," replied Satoru. "Oh, a movie. I haven't gone to watch one in a movie theater in quite a long time," muttered Ruriko. "You can tag along if you want," said Naoya and looked towards Satoru. Satoru looked at Naoya and shrugged. He knew better than anyone that his mother didn't get many opportunities to go out of the clan and have fun. If she had tagged along and was interested in movies, then he was not gonna deny that. "Sure. Come along, Mom, I will sit between you and Naoya though," said Satoru and looked towards Naoya. Naoya stared back at the third wheel and was contemplating pushing him off the mountain. Seeing the imaginary sparks between the 2 kids, Ruriko stepped in between them. All right. Don't fight, you two. Satoru, don't worry. Naoya-kun is just playing around and doesn't have those kinds of intentions. He won't be interested in old ladies like me anyway," said Ruriko and tried to give a subtle hint to the boys about her stance. Naoya and Satoru were smart enough to understand what Ruriko was implying, and Satoru looked at Naoya, wondering if he was saddened by the indirect rejection. Naoya remained silent. He could act shamelessly and just act like he didn't get the hint. but that would be disrespectful to Ruriko-san. Haha. Ruriko-san, I always say this, but you don't look old to me at all, you know, replied Naoya with a soft smile. Ruriko looked back at him kindly and patted the kid. I am old, you know. I am Satoru's mom, meaning I am old enough to be your mom too, replied Ruriko. Don't spoil him, Mom. He has mommy issues, said Satoru, trying to joke and cheer up the atmosphere. I most certainly don't, complained Naoya. You most certainly have mommy issues, retorted Satoru. Oh yeah, the one without the mom is the one with mommy issues? Explain that logic, replied Naoya and stared back at Satoru. Satoru and Ruriko got awkward at that and didn't know how to respond. Naoya smirked at their silence. See. You cannot. Now let's go to the movies, replied Naoya and turned around. Satoru and Ruriko looked at each other, and Ruriko immediately smacked her son. You had to bring up a sensitive topic at this time, thought Ruriko. She didn't speak, but Satoru could somehow understand what Ruriko was trying to say. You are one to talk after indirectly rejecting him. I was trying to let him down slowly before things escalated. The mother and son kept communicating through their eyes and soon started following Naoya, who was quite far away from them. He knew that the Gojos were quite behind him, but he didn't wait for them and made his way down. Somehow he felt a bit hurt and wanted some space. Near the foot of the mountain, 2 cars from the Jujutsu division were parked, and the personnel from the HQ were waiting for Naoya and Satoru. Zenin-sama. Oh, Sato-san. The curse has been exorcised. I will tell you the details on the way. On that note, can we ask you for a favor? Asked Naoya. Favor? From us? Asked Sato and the other man in confusion. How could they be of help to 2 special grades? I was wondering if we could use your services for the day to go around town? Just for casual stuff, nothing jujutsu related, replied Naoya. No issues with that. We would be happy to help, replied Sato and the other man with a smile. The 2 of them had no issues with taking sorcerers from place to place after their missions. This gave them a bit more free time during their duties and while stationed at another mission. There were no issues with this arrangement. Thanks. Just like that, the 3 of them, along with the 2 drivers, went to the movies. At the theater, Naoya treated the people from the HQ too, and like that, the 5 of them got into the almost empty hall. Ruriko looked around, seeing the empty hall, and turned towards Satoru. Why is it so empty? Asked Ruriko. Don't know. Maybe because it is still early, replied Satoru. What movie are we watching? Asked Ruriko. Earthworm Man, replied Satoru. Ruriko blinked, understanding the reason why the hall was empty. What is wrong with you boys? Asked Ruriko and facepalmed. Huh? Why the sudden jab at your own son? Asked Satoru, taken aback by his mother's comment. Well, considering your mental health, I too would be worried about you. Naoya's voice came, making Satoru turn around and look at his friend, who was holding a bit too many snacks. Like you are one to talk. You were included in Mom's comment too, you know? Replied Satoru. Huh? Me too? What was the context? Here, caramel popcorn and cola for Satoru, and butter popcorn and lemonade for Ruriko-san, said and handed the snacks to the 2 of them. Both the Gojos looked at the things that they were handed and then looked back at Naoya, who still held quite a lot of things. He knows our preferences too well, thought the 2 of them. After settling down, Naoya turned towards the mother and son duo and asked what they were talking about. Something wrong with me? Well, considering that I decided to become your friend, there must be something wrong with me, said Naoya and looked at Satoru. What do you mean by that? It's the other way around. I decided to be your friend first, replied Satoru in annoyance. The best decision of your life if I do say so myself, said Naoya with a sagely nod. This arrogant bastard, complained Satoru. Seeing the 2 of them back to normal, Ruriko sighed. As the 2 boys continued to argue, the movie started making Ruriko shut the 2 of them up. Naoya looked behind him where the 2 people from HQ were and handed some snacks to them as well. He was treating them after all. Neither the 2 nor Ruriko had any intention to watch Earthworm Man, but getting dragged in by the 2 special grades made them stop complaining and try to enjoy the movie anyway. Back in Tokyo. Currently, Suguru Geto was not on a mission, and considering that Satoru was not present for him to fool around with, he was on his usual job of walking around town and collecting curses while saving someone if he could. Satoru and Zenin are getting stronger and stronger day by day. I need to step up too, muttered Geto and gulped the cursed spirit ball. He didn't want to admit it, but he was a bit jealous of Naoya's and Satoru's strengths. He has seen Satoru every day since they joined Jujutsu High and knew that he was strong too. But after his encounter with Naoya and seeing the true limits of both the sorcerers made him question his capabilities. He believed that the gap between him and Satoru was not that huge, but apparently he was wrong, and it became even clearer after Satoru's recent understanding of RCT. I need to get more cursed spirits, muttered Geto. While on a stroll, he spotted someone familiar. Geto-kun? Itadori-san, fancy seeing you here. How is your injury? Asked Suguru with a smile mixed with worry. The lady smiled at the boy. I am fine. Don't act like that. Also, I told you to call me Kaori, right? Don't act so distant, said Kaori with a pout. Haha. Sorry. Kaori-san, replied Geto with a chuckle. The pouting lady looked cute to him. Anyway? What are you doing at this time? Don't you have school? Skipping classes? Asked Kaori suspiciously. Busted. Don't tell my teachers, though. I would be scolded, said Geto and raised his hands in surrender. What should I do with this bad boy? As an adult, this is my responsibility to report bad behavior, said Kaori playfully. Ugh. I got caught up with a good person. What to do? Replied Geto, playing along. Kaori smirked and waved her hand. Don't worry, I am just messing around. Anyway, since you are skipping anyway, help me get some groceries. I need someone to carry my stuff, said Kaori. Using me as a chore boy? Aren't you a good adult? I will treat you to ice cream. Well, can't say no to that now, can I? Replied Geto with a chuckle. His gaze moved towards the bandage wrapped around Kaori's head, and he felt a bit of pity for her and decided to help her. My accepting just like that? Did your parents not tell you to follow strangers who offer you candy? Asked Kaori playfully. My mom did warn me about girls like that, said Geto, thinking for a while. He then smirked at Kaori. I was hoping she was right, added Geto. Kaori blinked at that answer before she started laughing out loud. Well, let's hope you don't regret it, replied Kaori and stared at Geto, a bit too intently. Chapter 74. It was all right to go a bit crazy. A few days passed by since Naoya and Satoru went on the mission. They had quite a lot of fun, but now things were back to normal. Currently, Naoya was training the rainbow dragon that he got that day, teaching it some formations and working with him and the other Shikigami. Just as he predicted that day, the dragon had insane durability. The dragon also seemed to have gained the ability to boost his defenses even more if, for some reason, its already insane defenses are breached. It wasn't at Sephiroth's Maharaga level, but the dragon could potentially become unkillable if it were not one-shot. This new ability works by creating stronger scales if its scales were broken by any attack, and the Shikigami is not killed. The improved scales takes place of the broken scales, and every scale on the dragon's body adapts to that increased durability. Naoya wanted to name the dragon Rayquaza, or Ray for short, but the moment the twins lay eyes upon it, they yelled out Shenron, making it the dragon's official name. Naoya showed the new Shikigami to the twins and his grandpa after he was done checking it out, and although they were quite amazed to see a dragon-cursed spirit/Shikigami, the thing that Maki and Mai liked most about it was that now the two had a cooler ride to fly on. Done with his morning routine, Naoya freshened up and made his way to the school and spotted Kuriko sleeping in the class the moment he entered. Seeing that there was still some time before the classes started, he decided to let him be for now. The boy officially got his grade 2 supervisor and was now constantly being assigned solo missions for evaluations, and it was taking quite a lot of toll on his low stamina. Naoya looked at Kuriko, and there were no scratches or bruises on him, hinting that he did not get hit much during missions at all. His presence concealment was too much against grade 2 curses, and the single strike buff is insta-kill too. He must be under a thorough scrutiny by the higher-ups. In a way, he is more dangerous than Satoru and me, thought Naoya. Special grades like him and Satoru were walking disasters, sure, but their movements could be tracked, and they knew when and when not to give information to them. Kuriko, on the other hand, can simply sneak in without anyone even batting an eye, gather the needed information and get out of the place without anyone knowing. Sure, there would be some traces afterwards, but by that time the damage would have been done. Naoya took his own seat and decided to relax for a while. Once school was over, Kuriko was once again fetched by his supervisor for a mission, much to the boy's annoyance. He seriously considered using his technique to stay hidden for a few days. Once he was gone, Naoya started focusing on new tricks. During his time with Satoru, he hinted that he was working on something new, and knowing the white-haired anomaly, he will most certainly succeed in that too. Now that can cause some issues for Naoya, and he was not planning to give Satoru the advantage. His 10 shadows and projection sorcery have advanced a lot. All Shikigami were unlocked, and he has mastered the CTR of both techniques as well. The only technique that hasn't progressed much is the solid shadow, his most recent technique. He thought of gaining Kajinori's insights on the technique, considering that he was the master of the technique, but the old man had the cliché habit of riddling his clues, making Naoya break the puzzles to gain a new understanding. It's not like he doesn't understand why the old man was doing that, but it was still annoying. Coming to an understanding of a technique might take longer, but ultimately it gives a better and more personal understanding of the technique. In Jujutsu, the image that one has of their technique separates people who might have the same technique. The latest hint that the old man gave him was, "Against me, a domain has not lasted longer than 15 seconds. If Kajinori was telling the truth, then the old man was amazing. Domains are considered the pinnacles of a technique, which were almost impossible to deal with. Even anti-domain techniques could just help you get some more time against the domain, and if it is a high-level domain, then your movements are quite restricted since maintaining the anti-domain technique while moving is difficult. If Kajinori mentioned it to Naoya, then it has to be related to solid shadow. The only question was how? Binding vow? Chance? Curse tools? He had no idea. The old man refused to give hints anymore, making Naoya a bit annoyed. Still, the Zenin clan didn't raise a quitter. A complainer, sure, but not a quitter. He will complain to his absolute limit but still make sure to reach his goal. Currently, inside a curtain, Zenkyo was using his domain to trap Naoya and Yutaheim. Yutaheim was mastering her simple domain, while Naoya was trying to understand what his grandpa might be hinting at. Naoya was sitting seriously on the ground, trying to brainstorm ideas. Zenkyo occasionally fired a blunt projectile at Naoya from time to time since he was ordered to do so. Even if Kajinori had a way to counter the domain, he would still need to be able to use anti-domain techniques to be able to use his technique before getting hit. Yutaheim, who was struggling to maintain the simple domain inside Zenkyo's domain, looked at Naoya, who was effortlessly using the technique, and felt a bit frustrated. Zenkyo looked at both of them and felt that today, both his master and the priestess were acting a bit the same. Both looked quite frustrated. After their training was over, it was time for them to leave. Nagino approached them. "Zenin Iori, just giving you two a heads up. The school would be closed for a week." "HM? Why all of a sudden?" asked Yutaheim. She has not witnessed such a thing happen before. "Tsukumo is out of town as usual. I have been assigned a mission that will take a few days, and after that, you and Zenin will be dispatched in 2 days. Just received the orders from HQ. Seeing that most of us will be absent on different days, conducting regular classes would be a hassle. Enjoy 2 days of rest. This time your mission will be longer. Here are the details," said Nagino and handed the assignment details to Naoya. Yutaheim peeked in as well and started to go through the details. Once Naoya was done reading, he handed the sheet to Yutaheim for her to be done with reading. The mission this time was investigating and neutralizing a curse user group. Curse users are humans who could use Jujutsu, but rather than being affiliated with Jujutsu HQ, they use these powers for personal gain and societal harm. Curse users are a common adversary that sorcerers face, aside from the curse spirits, but they were a bit more complex, considering human enemies were capable of thinking. The issue this time is that a group of curse users seem to be collaborating with each other for some big project. Along with looking into this group, other documents highlighted their potential involvement, and the most common ones included human trafficking. Reading the info, Naoya was already in a bad mood. Most of the victims were kids, and that was a big no-no in Naoya's books. Yutaheim was done going through the document, and she too was frowning. She was involved in curse user missions before, but something this big and ugly involving them was something new. "How much are we allowed to do?" asked Naoya. "Zenin, the higher-ups has mentioned just to investigate and neutralize. The level of methods is not explicitly stated by them. I am not allowed to say this, but let's just say a birdie told you this. They want to see how you perform and act in these situations, said Najino. Naoya blinked. Another test, whatever, I am getting free Regan in a way, thought Naoya. You two will be deployed in 2 days, so prepare accordingly and go with the mindset that you might need to be on duty for a long period, warned Najino. Naoya looked at Najino and simply shook his head. Yutaheim somewhat understood what Naoya was thinking, but this time she felt it was all right to go a bit crazy.